Uh, I'm up. It's pretty late. Oh, that's not quite. It's a little better. There's a new friend. Grommet is there now. I actually got that Grommet in England way back when I was in college. College. Anyway, it's me, the streamer with the male pattern and baldness, like a lot of other streamers. Shall we watch or listen to? There's also something freaky. Oh, this fucking French streamer I learned about. He was like an endurance streamer. I can't imagine forcing myself to just be on here and subjecting myself to assholes for money. I'd rather get money for other reasons by those assholes, not to hurt myself. But something happened. Mr. Disturbin, we'll take it from here.
On the 18th of August 2025, in a small house near the city of Nice, a live camera captured a disturbing scene. A 46-year-old man motionless on a thin mattress, with thousands of live viewers watching in horror, with two younger men moving in and out of frame. This is the case of Raphael Graven, otherwise known by his online pseudonym Jean Pormanov, or just simply JP. JP was no stranger to attention. He was a former soldier, and according to those who knew him, he was a natural entertainer. After a career in the army, he reinvented himself in his 40s as an online content creator, amassing a huge following with stunts and endurance streams. JP would play video games one day and then subject himself to bizarre challenges the next, always upping the ante. By 2025, he had over 1 million followers across all platforms. In early 2023, a new platform was launched, Kick. Kick launched as a new live streaming service aiming to rival Amazon's Twitch. It was backed by online casino entrepreneurs and offered an unparalleled 95% cut of subscription revenue to its streamers. Due to the better pay, many people did transfer over to this new platform. However, what was more enticing to some was the reputation of Kick for having looser moderation and permissive content rules. Twitch is known to be somewhat rather strict, and Kick was far more relaxed. For JP, he saw this as an opportunity to build his online persona even further. JP had begun building his online persona around 2019 on sites like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. Early on, he gained a modest following through gaming streams and some comedic skits. However, he soon turned to more extreme challenges, eating ridiculously spicy foods, streaming for 24 hours straight, and pranking himself. Basically, him just suffering for viewers' entertainment. When the platform Kick arrived with its more lenient content rules, it was the perfect arena for JP to push things further. Although he wasn't alone. By 2024, he had teamed up with two fellow French streamers who would soon become central characters in this case. JP's closest collaborators were known as Naruto and Safine. To their fans, the trio was sort of like an oddball internet family, with JP being the older brother figure. In fact, they even referred to themselves as brothers. Naruto once wrote to JP saying, "My brother, my sidekick, my partner, 6 years side by side. I love you." As the three spent more time on the platform, they discovered something. They discovered that if they inflicted pain and humiliation on JP, their viewership would go up. They would frequently slap and insult JP on stream, but this would escalate into something far more sinister. Gradually, Naruto and Safine became tormentors, while JP became the punching bag. By late 2024, each stream featured physical and psychological humiliations inflicted in real time, all performed in front of a live, interactive audience. The trio even devised twisted game show-like segments. JP would be asked impossibly hard questions, or made to perform under duress. Wrong answers or failures were met with punishments: a hard slap to the face, a bucket of cold water over the head, or something even worse. Night after night, viewers tuned in to watch JP endure degrading challenges. What they saw was shocking: JP being slapped, kicked and verbally abused by the two other streamers, even to the point that JP became visibly groggy. In one clip that has since circulated online, JP is shown bound to a chair, whilst his co-streamers gleefully spray him with paint and fire a paintball gun at him. In another segment, they tighten their hands around his throat in a mock strangulation, releasing only when JP's face became red and he began gasping for air. Then, on another occasion, a wrestling match ensued on stream, but this turned into a full-fledged beating, with JP once again being the victim. With this, the live chat box on the screen would see a large amount of engagement. Basically, the further they took it, the more reward they would get. Some viewers believed that this was just all an act, an extreme form of comedy or stunt performance where JP was in on the joke, a little bit like Jackass. However, others watched precisely because they suspected that this was entirely real. French media has since reported that in the hours upon hours of footage, it is not clear whether JP had subjected himself to the violence voluntarily or if he was forced to endure it. Nor could they tell if the action was real or staged. Either way, it attracted more and more curious onlookers. In late 2024, they upped the antics again. JP was subjected to sleep deprivation, regular beatings, and even forced to ingest unknown liquids on camera. He was often covered in bruises, had black eyes, and appeared to be disorientated. All of this was happening in the open. As the horrors unfolded live, some observers outside of Kick grew alarmed. In late 2024, French journalists and authorities took notice of JP's disturbing broadcasts. On the 15th of December 2024, there was an exposé by French media. They highlighted one of the shows that the trio would broadcast, which roughly translates to English as Battle of the Cripples. This exposé detailed how influencers in France were producing live videos of extreme violence and humiliation, targeting vulnerable people, and doing so for huge audiences and massive profit. In early January of 2025, the police reportedly took in the three for questioning. Under interrogation, they all insisted that their content, while extreme, was voluntary and staged. The investigation, however, remained open. Officials began monitoring the situation, gathering evidence from videos and trying to determine if any laws were actually broken. In late January of 2025, JP returned to streaming, and the cycle of on-camera abuse resumed, seemingly again escalating further, and soon it would all come to a tragic end. In August of 2025, JP and his two partners announced an ambitious new project, a marathon livestream. Marathon livestreams are a growing trend in the influencer world, creators staying live for 24, 48, even 72 hours straight as a challenge to themselves and as a way to raise money for charity or grow subscribers. But for these three, it was different. This just wouldn't be sitting in front of a camera playing video games for a long time. Their marathon stream would be full of extreme violence, endurance, and humiliation. They rented a house specifically for the live stream, and on the 7th of August 2025, the stream went live. And once it began, it didn't stop. Viewers could tune in at any hour, any day, any night, just to see the horrendous state that JP was in. In the initial days, Naruto and Safine played the roles of live hosts, bantering with the chat and occasionally allowing JP moments of rest, but only brief ones. The abuse started nearly instantly, and it escalated rapidly. Each day of the stream had challenges that essentially amounted to systematic torture. JP was deprived of sleep, kept awake by loud music, or sudden shake-ups by his partners if he ever nodded off. He was often beaten on camera, sometimes as punishment for failing a task, other times just for no reason at all. JP was also forced to consume hot sauces, raw eggs, and other toxic concoctions, all designed to make him feel ill. There were moments where JP was choked and then dragged in front of the camera, his eyes half open in a daze. Paintball guns were fired on his skin at close range, closer than ever. The bruises were clearly visible on JP's arms and torso. According to some viewers, his body was a sickly pale yellow colour, with purple bruised circles dotted all over. And then there was the psychological torture. Naruto and Safine berated JP constantly, calling him demeaning names, laughing at his suffering, and reminding him that the audience wanted all of this to happen. Some fans did express some worry, writing things like, "He doesn't look good, JP, please rest." But others said, "We paid for this show, keep going." By day 10, JP was a wreck. Those watching the stream could see that something was different now. JP's face was swollen and pale. He moved sluggishly, barely able to stand without swaying. At times, he appeared to be drifting in and out of consciousness whilst on his feet, but still, the live stream continued. At one point, Naruto and Safine tried to stage a mock game where JP had to crawl towards a goal while they periodically kicked him. But as they kicked him on the ground, it became clear that JP had no strength left to even react. And then, the final moments arrived live on camera. It was Sunday, the 17th of August 2025, rolling into the early hours of Monday the 18th. JP was shown lying down on a mattress on the floor. This served as his only bed throughout the streaming marathon. He was wrapped up in a blanket, and for a long stretch of time, he hadn't moved at all. The chat began to fill with messages like, "JP, are you still alive? Someone please check on him. This isn't funny anymore." Viewers were growing deeply uneasy. Naruto then walked over to a mattress where JP was laying. He picked up a plastic water bottle and chucked it at JP's ribs. Normally, even an exhausted JP would flinch or groan, but this time, he didn't even move. The silence on the stream was horrifying. There was no reply, no movement, no nothing. In a sudden panic, the stream abruptly cut out. The video feed went dark, ending the 10-day stream. On viewers' screens, the channel simply just went offline. Those who had been watching were left in shock and confusion. Many began to wonder, had they just really witnessed a man's final moments? Some hoped that this was just a prank or an intentional cliffhanger, but others immediately knew, and they feared the worst. People began flooding to social media with alerts. Concerned fans and bewildered onlookers alerted authorities, unsure if what they had seen was real. Tragically, it was all too real. Sometime after the broadcast ended, paramedics were called to the streaming house. When they arrived, they found JP unresponsive, and they could not revive him. On the 18th of August, it was publicly confirmed that a 46-year-old man had been found dead at the livestream location. It didn't take long for people to learn the truth. JP had literally died on live camera. News of JP's death spread like wildfire across the internet. In France, the story dominated the news. For many who didn't know about this strange internet subculture, they were deeply horrified. They saw this as a nightmare scenario where online entertainment had gotten utterly out of control. Those who had seen the final stream were traumatized. A large number of viewers, including teenagers, had essentially watched a man be tortured to death in real time. Fans who had followed JP's journey for years were in tears and disbelief. Many posted tributes and apologized for ever encouraging this extreme violence. There was an outpouring of grief and guilt, but it was far too late. Internet forums then lit up with discussions. How could this happen? Why didn't anyone stop it? Some of JP's loyal followers
all I can be is like speechless for this stuff because, like, what else can I say? I don't do much out of these streams, but exercise, look for new jobs, hire lawyers to fight for me, talk to my mom, maybe some other stuff, but never have I ever been interested in live streamers to the point of seeing them day to day, what they're doing in their lives. I haven't seen that shit since like the real world or road rules, all that reality TV shit, which I never keep up with since ever. I can't think of a single fucking show that ever interests me to the point I became so invested every single week to watch it, much less the lives of the most irrelevant people on earth. But even if I was, I don't know. Maybe I grew up in a different time. That just doesn't make me want to seek out these people. I only remember a point when I did. Maybe I did one time, if I think really hard. No, I think of people just torturing each other and just wanting, and then like asking myself, how did it get to this point? When was too far too far? Was it when he was eating rotten eggs or drinking unknown stuff? When was the point? Did he actually have to die for like people to actually feel guilty? It's so stupid people feel guilty to begin with. I think that's a really false feeling. I don't think people really feel like that. They think they feel that, but I feel like they should feel stupidity for themselves and just stay off the internet forever or kill themselves.
Confessed that they had initially found the content extremely funny, but over time they grew concerned for his safety and just didn't know how to help. Naruto also publicly mourned JP, which many people found to be rather tone deaf. He wrote on Instagram,
Right.
"I ask you all to respect his
It's tone deaf to even respond. You let it happen for it's an act for them.
memory and to not share the video of his last moments. I love you, my brother. We will miss you terribly." Safin also shared his sadness of JP's death. However, many accused Naruto and Safin of crocodile tears,
Yeah.
holding them directly responsible for JP's death. Many responded by saying, "You're the ones who did this to him. You killed your brother for views." Some people tried to say that JP had died peacefully in his sleep due to an underlying medical condition, and that the
Whatever.
violence had all been scripted. When investigators began interviewing Naruto and Safin in the wake of the death, this was their immediate defense. Their lawyers stated that JP had a pre-existing cardiovascular problem, and that all the scenes were staged and they were just following a script. But these claims were met with widespread skepticism. French media had, after all, seen hours of the footage, in which JP's reactions didn't look acted at all. It looked entirely real. An autopsy has been ordered by prosecutors to determine the precise cause of death. If the autopsy shows any signs of trauma, like broken ribs, internal bleeding, toxic substances in his system, it would strongly undercut the natural causes narrative that the two are trying to spin. As of right now, French authorities have confirmed that they are opening a formal judicial investigation into JP's death, treating it as suspicious and seeking to assign responsibility. Police have since combed through the rented house that the streamers were using, seizing streaming equipment, hard drives, and any evidence of what transpired during those 10 days. Naruto and Safin have been identified as key witnesses and potential suspects. At the very least, They were the last people to see JP alive. It's reported that manslaughter or negligent homicide charges are very much on the table, and then, depending on the autopsy results and the other evidence, charges could even escalate to something like torture and murder. For the platform kick, the fallout is potentially devastating. The platform is still very new, and they are trying to build a reputation.
For killing people?
Parallels to an episode of Black Mirror in which a man endures dangerous stunts on livestream in exchange for money. They have given an official response. A spokesperson offered condolences, saying, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of JP.
You fuckers watch it all the time.
To his family, friends, and community.
People probably reported it constantly."
Now urgently reviewing the circumstances surrounding the death and engaging with relevant stakeholders to investigate what exactly happened. Kick also claimed that the community guidelines
Who are the stakeholders? Drake?
are designed to protect creators, and that they remained committed to upholding these standards across the platform. They have said that this wasn't supposed to happen on their watch. Behind the scenes, Kick took action on the specific accounts involved. All streamers who participated in the live broadcast were banned, pending investigation. JP's own channel was also removed from the site, effectively scrubbing the evidence of the streams from public view, although there are some recordings circulating online. The two co-streamers maintain that they never intended to really hurt JP, and it seems like their defense will hinge on claiming that JP was a consenting adult and that they all believe that this was part of the show. However, consent becomes difficult when money and power dynamics are involved. JP was older, but it seems like he was in a less powerful position. He seemed to be financially dependent on the streaming income, and he also seemed to be emotionally dependent on his so-called friends. The investigators want to explore whether or not he was manipulated or coerced into enduring more than he wanted to. Text messages, behind-the-scene videos, and witness testimony from those who knew the trio could shed light on how much of this JP truly agreed to. However, this text message has since come to light. Before his death, JP sent this message to his mother.
According to, "Hey Mom, how are you? I'm sick of this game. It's gone way too far. I feel like I'm being held hostage by their awful concept. I'm exhausted. I want to leave. The other guy won't let me. He's holding me hostage."
Hey Mum, how are you? I'm sick of this game. It's gone way too far. I feel like I'm being held hostage by their awful concept. I'm exhausted. I want to leave, but the other guys won't let me. He is holding me hostage. I'm unsure if anyone else has been arrested or charged or anything, but from some of the clips I've seen, I can imagine that a few other people may be arrested sometime soon. The case of JP is frightening and tragic on so many levels. This truly is a Black Mirror episode come to life, and sadly, it probably won't be the last of such cases. It started as the story of a man trying to reinvent himself after the military, finding friends and fans through the internet, but it soon changed into a modern horror story.
Alex from Tennessee.
This isn't a video that I wanted to make. In fact, quite the opposite. This video has been in my idea bank for quite a while now, and I knew I'd make it at some point, but for the opposite reasons. I knew that DBD's Quality of Life Initiative, or Health Update, was something I'd cover, but I thought that when I did so, the video would be talking about all the amazing things it fixed and how much better the game became afterwards. It's what I do in most of my videos, talk about something awful that used to be in the game and then break down how behavior fixed it, making Dead by Daylight a better game today. But I can't do that this time, because this time, behavior haven't fixed the game, despite direct promises to do so. I was actually halfway through making a completely different video when this situation reached its boiling point, and I had to switch over to this one because this is our one chance to get through to the devs. If you've seen anything related to DBD recently, you've no doubt seen the huge backlash behavior has been getting for their failed Walking Dead livestream with Chandler Riggs, and while this video will cover that too, there's a bigger overarching story that led us to where we're at now, the boiling point. Things need to change. The story officially starts on the 2nd of December 2024 when the Dead by Daylight developers tweeted this: 8 years around the campfire and we wouldn't be here without you. Your feedback allowed us to bring new features to life in 2024 and we can't wait to keep building this world of you for the years to come. Nominate Dead by Daylight in the Labour of Love category for the Steam Awards. Which, in a vacuum, is nothing out of the ordinary. Loads of games try going for this award, but the title, Labour of Love, implies that the developers have been pouring their heart and soul into the game and treating it with love, which is something that couldn't be said about Dead by Daylight while holding a straight face. So the sheer audacity of such a request sparked immediate backlash from the community. In case you're unfamiliar with Dead by Daylight or are still somewhat new to it, shortly after its release in 2016, this game quickly earned a strong reputation for being terribly balanced, riddled with bugs that would often take multiple years to fix, pumping out licensed DLC one after the other while treating said licenses like trash, and leaving their respective killers in awful states for literal years, like the pig, who the developers straight up bullied for multiple years, only finally attempting to give her a real buff more than half a decade later in 2025, as well as having a huge hacker issue partially caused by the developers themselves, and treating their player base pretty poorly.
Playing killers was fun a long time ago, but now it's only stressful. But that's an opinion, a valid opinion, but that's an opinion. I used to love playing as a killer, win or lose, it was fun, but currently no matter what, it's just filled with stress and anger. Killers aren't feared anymore. Do you have any plans or ideas how you would like to improve the killer experience? Well, I would say maybe try Survivor for a bit. No, it's true. I mean, change it up. Maybe you're just tired, you know, or play something else for a week. Try Civilization.
While behavior and DBD
What
are
the
much better
fuck
than the
up?
old versions that earned these reputations, the devs and game only really started getting better around 2022, I'd say. So it's going to take a lot of work to undo the 6-year long run of damage that was dealt before 2022. Despite this long running bad reputation,
Like, do they think killers are getting bullied by the survivors is like fun? Like, I know there's really good killers out there that don't deal with that shit, but when I play it, it's just too hard. That's why I like Friday the 13th a lot more. It's easier to dominate as a killer, which I feel like you should be able to do. It shouldn't be so hard to fucking win when the gameplay's so stupid. Running around in a fucking forest.
the devs actually asked for the Labour of Love award back in 2023 as well, and that one went over much better. Of course, they didn't win the award, but they weren't torn to shreds for asking for it. So, what's the difference? The difference was, this most recent request came right after the release of the Houndmaster, one of the buggiest DLC releases that DBD has ever seen, so the community was already rallied together and united in their disappointment with the state of the game. And if there's one thing that can put some pressure on behavior, it's when the community rallies together. And the community did not hold back, which you can see in the replies. I love this game, but you just released a killer that barely functions. Buddy, I'm on your side, but the Houndmaster is in a rough spot right now, to say the least. If you tried loving your game, I don't know. This ain't love, this is abuse. Unfortunately, I have never felt less heard by a gaming company in all my years of gaming, so I cannot in good conscience vote for you. I would take this opportunity to listen to your players in the comments. And these are just a few of over 500 replies. So as you can see, the community was not happy at the sheer audacity of behavior to ask for the Labour of Love award when they really weren't treating DBD with love. This got so big that 11 days later, even Otter ended up making a video talking about it, titled, "Does DBD deserve the Labour of Love award?" with the thumbnail simply saying, nope. If you're someone who isn't too familiar with the game and its community, you might think, what's the big deal? A DBD YouTuber talking about DBD drama. That's hardly anything groundbreaking. But it's not as simple as that. Ots is one of, if not the biggest DBD YouTuber and streamer, and he generally likes to keep things positive, both for his community and for the devs. Don't get me wrong, he's not a shill or a yes man, but negativity isn't really his forte. But even he had to address this, and your biggest creator bringing more attention to the situation is already scary enough for the devs. But while he did have some good things to say about the game, even he agreed that ultimately, the game was not in a good enough state to win this award. So, 6 days after that, Behavior made this tweet. The Dead by Daylight team would like your feedback in a player satisfaction survey. We encourage you to be as honest as possible in letting us know how you feel about the game. The information and answers provided are anonymous. Access the survey with a link to the survey. Of course, people were still voicing their frustrations with the game in the replies, but as much as people didn't want to admit it, this was the perfect time and situation to gather feedback since all of the game's issues were on the forefront of players' minds. Then, 2 months later, an absolute bombshell dropped. A video on the official Dead by Daylight YouTube channel titled Dead by Daylight, Quality of Life Initiative, February 2025.
The reality is, And when it comes to the quality of the experience of our players, we understand that we are simply not where we want to be.
It's not fun.
This recently in the current state of the game, and we believe and we agree that now is the time to tackle these issues head on.
So first, we will be delaying our upcoming release by 3 weeks, and that begins with tomorrow's PTP. Beyond that, multiple other releases and events in the 2025 calendar will also be impacted in order to give us the opportunity to truly make this quality of life push a priority.
The video was also accompanied with a matching dev blog and forum post going into much greater detail about what their plans were. And what were those promises exactly? Surrendering, a gamma slider, go next prevention, hostage holding prevention, map offering nerfs, survivor spawn changes, improved AFK detection, bulk blood point spending, a new quest system, more perk preset slots, and seeing your own perks in the lobby. And as you can see, the community was absolutely ecstatic about this. The health update was exactly what we needed. Slugging has been frustrating people for a long time. Surrendering would be an absolute game changer and would remove the need for people to go next entirely, tying in perfectly with the go next prevention. Delaying content releases was also very admirable and really made the community believe that this was it. After all of this, the game would be so much better to play with many frustrations removed. This announcement completely flipped the court of public opinion from having an overwhelmingly negative view of the state of the game to having an overwhelmingly positive and optimistic view for the game's future. The issues weren't magically gone, but now the community knew that they will be gone at some point, which gave them hope. The community was so happy at being presented with a list of things that the devs were planning to fix, but nobody stopped to consider everything that the devs weren't planning to fix, or the possibility that some of these promises could fail. Over the course of the next few months, we would indeed get some great additions to the game. We got the anti-hostage changes that would allow the survivors to quit if the killer has everyone slugged, or allows the killer to quit if survivors haven't done a gen in 5 minutes, collision loss if somebody has you trapped, the gamma slider, which has been hugely valuable for console players in particular, and the perk presets are a small but welcome addition too. The survivor spawn logic update has helped make early games a bit more manageable for killers, although some people quickly started bringing in Shroud of Separation, which is now a survivor offering, to undo this change. But easily, the most universally praised addition has been the bulk blood point spending button, as we previously have to spend far too long in between games leveling up our characters. As time went on, more updates came out, more DLCs came out, and more bugs started getting introduced, which kind of irritated the player base, but most people wrote it off, thinking, well, we are in the health update after all, so they'll fix it, right? Before we knew it, we were already in June, about to enter into the second half of the health update. It was only 4 months after the initiative started, and somehow we had already had 3 new DLCs, Tokyo Ghoul, Arella Rose, and 5 Nights at Freddy's. That's nearly 1 DLC a month, plus the fact that FNAF was easily the biggest release we ever had. What happened to slowing down content for the sake of health? How come we were at the end of the first phase and the game still felt practically the same as when we started? Well, let's break down what actually happened with phase 1. Anti-slugging and a surrender option. Well, that just didn't happen. The only change we got to slugging was a rework to a single perk, being knockout. The act of slugging itself and the effects it had on the game simply haven't changed whatsoever. And surrendering still isn't a thing at all. Don't get me wrong, you do have the option of quitting without a penalty when the killer has left all 4 survivors on the floor, or if the survivors haven't done a single gen in 5 minutes, but that's purely to prevent hostage taking. That's not surrendering. Surrendering would be if the team had the option of collectively voting whether to drop out together if 3 or 4 of the team agrees to it after a certain criteria has been met, like survivors surrendering if the killer has 8 hooks with 5 gens still remaining, or the killer being able to surrender with 4 gens done and 0 hooks. Everything in this bottom section doesn't even have any effects during matches. How many times have you closed the game in anger, saying to yourself, I'm sick of this game and it's BS. I swear, if the devs don't add a tiny square in the pre-game lobby showing me my own perks that I selected myself, I'm gonna uninstall. Come on now. Don't get me wrong, they're definitely nice quality of life changes, but there are some seriously bigger fish to fry. In terms of in-game differences, over the span of the entire first half of the health update, all we got was anti-hostage taking, anti-go next, and more balanced survivor spawns. Undeniably amazing changes that we do appreciate greatly, but far too little, far too late. So what happened? Well, remember how they were going to delay new DLC releases to focus on fixing the game? They did exactly what they said they'd do. Look.
We will be delaying our upcoming release by 3 weeks.
They shifted all releases backwards by 3 weeks, which, realistically, bought them 3 weeks of time to focus on this entire initiative before heading back to the usual DLC schedule, because it wasn't 3 weeks per DLC, but just 3 weeks for the entire initiative. This means that they either mashed everything out in that initial first 3 weeks when they first announced it, or, potentially even worse, and most likely the real case, they've had to continue working on the rest of the health update while also working on all of these DLCs at the same time. I say this is the even worse possibility because we got into this mess from behavior forcing updates out the door without enough time in the oven, without enough time to fix the issues before release, and barely having enough time to squeeze out fixes for some, but not all of the issues before moving on to the next one. So you take the issue of them not having enough time to iron things out, then stretch their development resources even further with all of these health updates, and you can see how things would likely get worse. They'll have less time to work on the future DLC, which means it will come with even more bugs than previous ones, and will be stuck in this infinite loop forever. And of course, only 1 month later, on the 29th of July 2025, we got yet another DLC release as we entered the first month of Phase 2 of the health update, bringing us The Walking Dead. This was something that the community was very excited for. Unfortunately, we got no killer, which might be one of the biggest missed opportunities in DBD history, and no full...
Why not General?
Instead, we get 1 new jungle gym in the
Or
corner,
Governor?
and 2 survivors, being Rick and Michonne, with a Daryl skin for Rick. Again, a huge missed opportunity, but at least since it's just 2 survivors, it's a hard update to mess up, right? Well, this was somehow one of the buggiest updates we've ever had in Dead by Daylight, even more so than the Houndmasters chapter. This isn't just nitpicking or obscure things that are hard to replicate, these things were glaringly obvious. Seriously, even just loading into any match as either a survivor or a killer, you'd be greeted with a massive metal support beam on the offering screen, and this happened every single match without fail. People immediately jumped to the conclusion that Behavior hadn't even done 1 single match of playtesting for this update, as this beam isn't exactly hard to spot. The bugs are so bad and so abundant that the community has started compiling extensive lists of everything going on. Alranican has compiled an entire list of gameplay bugs, containing more than an almighty 130 different bugs, and Stay Bubble 12 has compiled an entirely separate list focusing on skins that are bugs too. The craziest thing about all this is that this isn't even everything. Just to add a few of my own to the list, Sadako's once infamous jump scare is now a surprise snog. Save the Best for Last is now useless on Pinhead as he loses 2 stacks every single time he chains the obsession, despite his ability not dealing damage by default. He also doesn't gain stacks for chaining non-obsessions.
What?
2 stacks every snog. Save the Best is now. To add a few of my own to the list, Sadako's once infamous jump scare is now a surprise snog. Save the Best for
That's not. Is that real?
He loses 2 stacks every single time he chains the obsession, despite his ability not dealing damage by default. He also doesn't gain stacks for chaining non-obsessions. Speaking of Pinhead, his ability is still rendered borderline useless by Fixated, as it applies its 20% movement speed boost while chained. And the Ghoul's view model animation is still bugged where it doesn't loop correctly, so you can see your hand teleport every time your animation replays. This happens on both Kaneki and Rize all match long, every match. Just to add to the other 130 plus bugs everybody else mentioned. And, to top it off, hackers were still running rampant with nothing being done even after their promise to do so back on, and I kept the receipts for this, the 23rd of September 2022. If you don't remember, since 2021, DBD has had a severe cheating problem, unlike anything any other game has seen since Modern Warfare 2 in 2009 with CFG mod menus, due to a culmination of multiple issues. The first of which was when the Dead by Daylight devs accidentally leaked a private internal development build of the game in 2019 that didn't have anti-cheat implemented, which gave cheat developers the perfect, completely safe breeding ground to develop and improve their cheats undisturbed with no risk of being banned. The second of which was when DBD went free to keep on Epic Games for an entire week in 2021. There were no strings attached whatsoever. Anyone can make an Epic account, claim DBD for free, and get to keep it forever. Of course, surprising seemingly nobody apart from behavior, cheaters made bots to automatically make accounts, claim DBD, and then save the login to a file. This allowed them to generate potentially hundreds of thousands of backup accounts completely for free, serving as the catalyst for the cheating epidemic that soon followed. Hackers now had much more advanced cheats thanks to the dev build, and now had complete immunity to bans thanks to the game going free to keep on Epic Games. This all culminated in a hacking avalanche in 2022 that affected the normal player base and content creators alike, with different cheats even allowing them to trap players in matches for up to 2 entire hours at a time before the server would eventually shut down. Even the endgame collapse wouldn't end the match, and players were forced to either wait in an empty map for 2 hours or quit, invoking a DC penalty. This was lose-lose for the victims, as no matter which option they picked, they still wouldn't be able to play the game. This got so bad that multiple content creators such as Ostava, Spooky Loops, and myself all made videos addressing behavior saying, enough is enough, sort your game out. While most people boiled it down to something along the lines of fix your bloody anti-cheat, I was able to provide a bit more insight in terms of an under-the-hood change behavior could make to help drastically reduce what cheaters were able to do independently of easy anti-cheat. In the video I made back then, I broke down exactly what I thought the issue was. What I think the real issue is how much authority clients have over servers in Dead by Daylight. What that means is that the clients decide things that the server should decide. With lag switches, their client will tell the server, okay, I'm swinging my weapon now and the survivor is within range, so they take damage. And the server receives that and proceeds to kill the survivor regardless of the fact they're nowhere near the killer. What should happen is the client tells the server, okay, I'm swinging my weapon. And then the server tells the client, well, the survivor is nowhere near you, so they don't take damage. Game clients were deciding things that really the server should decide. Going back to Modern Warfare 2 again, if you try and activate speed hack or super jump while not being the host of the server, you'll just keep getting teleported back to where you should be, because every time your client tries to tell the server that you're jumping over buildings, the server simply replies, no the fuck you're not. If they had this figured out in 2009, there's no excuse for DBD. And astonishingly, 24 hours after I made that video, Behavior released a blog post addressing the hacking situation, stating, we will continue to implement server-side validation where possible. This takes authority away from a cheater's game client and puts it on a dedicated server, making cheating much more difficult. Confirming that yes, it was a client authority issue, and yes, they were going to address it. If they did fix the client authority issue, this would not only completely eradicate lag switching, but it would also straight up delete most cheats from DBD entirely. No more speed hacks, no more no-clip, no more holding people hostage until the server collapses, only things like ESP, wall hacks, and aimbot would remain, which hopefully Easy Anti-Cheat would then step in and ban people for. Fast forward to August 2025, and our hacking issue is still ongoing. All of the previous hacks like no-clip and speed hack are still running rampant, and things have now even progressed to the point where hackers can remotely crash matches without even being in the lobby. It's sort of like a DDoS attack where the server gets overwhelmed and just dies, but instead of sending random garbage packets like regular DDoSing, this seems to be done by the cheaters rapidly requesting to join a player's party, which is what allows them to do it remotely. There was once again a huge uptick in this activity, and players and streamers alike begged Behavior to do something about it. But alas, these cries fell on deaf ears. People eventually figured out that this hack could be completely stopped if the match had every spectator slot filled up, since this would disable the ability to send the join request. People were really frustrated about these problems. It's quite common for us to get angry about these sorts of things since they happen so often, but generally it doesn't amount to much, as other people who don't play as much might say things such as, oh, the cheating problem's nowhere near as bad as you're making it out to be, stop exaggerating, etc, etc. Because of course, cheaters aren't in literally every single match at the same time, so we don't all get angry about cheaters at the exact same time, so we don't end up uniting. But despite all these problems, Behavior still insisted on hosting a grand Walking Dead livestream to celebrate the launch of this DLC with none other than Chandler Riggs as the main guest. It was this stream where Dead by Daylight reached an all-new low, taking the worst hit to their reputation that we've ever seen. This was worse than the Korean flashlight incident and worse than the failed esports entrance with Space Esports, both of which I've made videos on before. This was when cheaters targeted the game developers themselves and won. Behaviour gathered 4 hugely popular DBD streamers, Otzdava, Ghost Arcade, Mish, and G-Burb, to play some private matches with Chandler while they spoke about all things DBD and Walking Dead. The stream started off innocent enough, introducing Chandler and having a quick chat about his experience playing DBD in the past, before jumping straight into a call with the streamers, ready to have some fun. Unfortunately, Behaviour decided to give Chandler a headset with a pretty awful microphone, which isn't great for the main star of the show to have. That being said, Chandler and all 4 of the streamers had amazing chemistry and had some great chats. A really professional job from everyone so far. But unfortunately, the entire thing continued to be plagued with a variety of audio issues, ranging from Chandler Riggs being given Zimbabwe Bubba's microphone, poor volume balance on Behaviour's end where each person was a different volume, and, what bothered chat the most, an echo. But they didn't hang about for too long, quickly heading into an actual match only a few minutes later. They give Chandler a very quick breakdown of what to do against the artist, which is the killer they're playing against, before the chase starts. Unfortunately, we don't get to see that first chase, as the spectator doesn't put the brand new, upgraded spectator system to use until right as the first survivor went down. I'm starting to get Space Esports flashbacks here. The match would last no longer than 27 seconds before the DDoSing commenced, completely lagging out the server and making the game outright unplayable for our hosts.
Alright, friends, I think we might need to have a restart and we might need to get a full staff list to join this lobby.
The match would last another 1 minute before they quit, giving us a grand total of 1 minute 27 seconds. Now, the keen-eared among you may have heard Otzdava say this.
And we might need to get a full staff list to join this lobby.
Because if you remember, the community had already been dealing with this for some time now and figured out how to prevent the invite spam DDoS attack. So Otzdava quickly told Behaviour how to fix the issue. So quickly, in fact, that he actually finishes explaining the solution exactly 15 seconds after the lag began. 15 seconds, wow, that's a huge boon for Behaviour, who are likely panicking in the background now. The scene changes back to facecam only while Behaviour figure out what's going on, and again, everyone does a great job of keeping the conversation flowing, keeping things positive, and overall, doing a great professional job. They spend a little over 5 minutes chatting before Otz reminds them that they need more spectators and that he's happy to invite his friends to fill the slots.
Do we need more odds? Or
We need more. We need more.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, I can get all my friends to join. I think Behavior folks are like booting up their game and installing the updates or something. But we're gonna politely tell them on Discord to hurry up.
Ghost Arcade starts a conversation with Chandler, but unfortunately, Chandler's mic has been muted by the stream host, so the 4 streamers can hear him and are talking to him just fine, but us viewers have no idea what they're talking about.
Where was your favorite kind of like period or like throughout the whole filming experience for like sets and stuff like that?
Eventually, they start readying up and load into their second attempt, Metal Beam in full view. Unfortunately, more
You're gonna have fucking Carl for your fucking stream and you can't hear a fucking thing he's saying? That's gonna piss everyone the fuck off.
audio issues, as Chandler's mic is still muted and the game audio isn't being captured directly, instead coming through somebody's mic. Then, a mere 35 seconds after the second match started, the DDoSing begins once again.
Oh, I think it's happening again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alright, guys. I didn't wanna be that guy, but
It's happening again. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to quit again. Behavior,
So embarrassing, dude.
Match again, with their second attempt lasting a total
And fucking Chandler
At this point, Otzdava just invites people himself.
probably fucking think it's so fucking
Bring spectators in, or
trash
I'm just gonna tell my mods. Hopefully they don't have a problem.
After Otz's mods fill
experience.
they think they're ready.
He probably thought he was gonna have fun.
I think that if we're ready up now,
Yeah,
we should be
perfect.
alright, and this should not happen anymore. So thank you everybody that made that possible. And sorry that you had to sit through this.
What is
that?
Chandler continues the conversation, but once again, Behaviour still haven't fixed his mic. Eventually, they take Chandler away and have a 10-minute break. Upon his return, Behaviour still have Chandler muted. This is absolutely unbelievable. This really is a repeat of Space Esports. Half an hour into the stream, they begin their third attempt at playing a match. Of course, with Chandler still muted.
Oh really?
Why?
Once again, we can see Behaviour completely ignored Otzdava's instructions on how to resolve the issue as the DDoSing continues 27 seconds into the match again. At this point, Otz is understandably frustrated with Behaviour's unbelievable incompetence.
Guys, I'm so sorry, but I'm just gonna be a bit blunt with Behavior.
Before they quit out of the match again. This third attempt lasted a grand total of 59 seconds. Back to Chandler and co having various conversations, remaining professional and trying to keep the ball rolling. Chandler, still muted, starts a conversation about a movie.
Oh my god, yes!
They proceed to have a lengthy conversation about it, while the viewers have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. 45 minutes into the stream now, and they are still yet to play a single match. A few minutes later, Behaviour changed the schedule and switched to a video of Chandler playing a different Behaviour game due to release soon to advertise it ahead of release. I feel so bad for these two devs as they're clearly excited to show off their project, but this entire situation is doing no favours for their game. It's like Behaviour saying, hey, we know we can't show you gameplay of our main game, Dead by Daylight, since it literally doesn't fucking work, but please come buy our other game. Of course, this game is made by a completely different team, but many people just won't care. After 10 minutes or so of that, the scene switches back to the studio, where they ask Chandler more questions for a few minutes before cancelling the stream altogether. The stream lasted 1 hour, 9 minutes and 59 seconds, with a grand total of 0 matches played. This was an absolute dumpster fire. They did so much hype building for this stream, got some of DVD's most popular streamers and a huge name being Chandler Riggs on board, so there were a lot of eyes on this, and Behaviour made a fool of themselves. The worst part of all, this 70-minute dumpster fire could have been so easily avoided, either by listening to the community's outrage about the hackers ahead of time, or by listening to the advice Otzdava gave them 15 seconds after the DDoSing started. Yes, remember, Otz told them exactly how to fix it just 15 seconds into the DDoS, and they ignored him entirely. This stream hadn't even finished before I started downloading the VOD, because I knew there was no way in hell that this was staying public. And, as predicted, the next day, it was gone. Then, a clip started circulating from the POV of one of the streamers. It's from a part of the stream where the devs were on a BRB screen, but the streamers still kept everything visible, and this conversation was caught happening behind the scenes.
Otter was saying that like if we fill up a lot completely with spectators, but is that not gonna work? Okay.
Where Chandler tells behavior employees directly, face to face, the solution that Otter gave them, and they were having none of it. Many people felt that the way they spoke to him was rude, especially the way they interrupted him. That same day, Behavior released this apology tweet. Yesterday's livestream with Chandler, Riggs and our creators didn't go as planned, and we want to sincerely apologize for how things unfolded. As most of you are now aware, we couldn't complete a match because the dedicated server players were on was the target of an attack. This put our content creators.
Why are they so proud for their garbage game? So incompetent at the same time. How do you have Chandler, fucking Carl from The Walking Dead, as your guest, and you just have said a complete fucking joke, and you still probably don't want to fix yours? Dude, what is the deal? It'd be so easy to fix DBD, I feel like. I've played it. Not a lot, but I can't play it a lot because it takes so long to find a match. When I do find the match, I almost always... I want to just play killer. I don't give a shit about survival. Because fucking touching... generators fucking boring as fuck. Whatever the fuck they're doing to it. Touching it, I don't know what they're doing. It's just like generating power. It's dumb. It's not fun gameplay. I don't know what the devs think it is. But you can't just have your game rely on collabing with shit. God, I want the game to... I hate saying that I want games to fail, but if there's one game that I would want to fail, it's just that. Because if they don't want to fix it, they don't give a shit. Then who gives a shit? I'll just uninstall it. I wanted to buy it. I mean, I bought it. But I want to play Chucky. But I don't want to buy Chucky if the game is stupid.
In an incredibly difficult position, trying to troubleshoot and adapt in real time while live. We know our creators have experienced similar issues, and they showed remarkable patience and resourcefulness, offering suggestions to help get things back on track. While our security team was on hand during the incident, we didn't properly assess the situation and didn't act on potential mitigation plans. And this is a failure on our part. We want to be clear. Our creators and our community are at the core of what we do. The last thing we ever want is for them to feel ignored or left out of the loop. We didn't communicate well enough yesterday, and we're taking a hard look at how we can do better moving forward. We also want to take the time to apologize to all of you, our DBD players. What was meant to be a fun moment bringing our community together turned out to be the opposite. After talking to creators, we are taking their feedback to improve how we run these streams in the future. Lastly, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Chandler Riggs, G-Burb, Ghost Arcade, Mish, and Oxtava for their time and support yesterday. Having Chandler and Rick Grimes for DBD at our office was still an amazing moment that we're really proud to have seen happen, and the continuous passion shown by our content creators and community is not something we take for granted. But sadly, the community was having absolutely none of it, because there's genuinely nothing that they can say to explain how they messed it up so badly. That stream was over an hour of misery, and you had your solution hand-fed to you 15 seconds after the issue started. As you can see from these replies, this one didn't make the community instantly forget about everything like the announcement of the health update did. In fact, it did the opposite. Behavior was getting torn to shreds, and not just by a small subsection of the community. This stream had so many eyes on it. This was a huge deal, and their apology had zero effect whatsoever. So, in the apology tweet, Behavior released this video.
Thought that would be better to see us face to face, and instead of spend our time apologizing, actually spend our time talking.
Look at these guys. These guys are the guys that run the stupid ass game and don't give a shit. And it took embarrassing a Hollywood star to fucking actually show some fucking competence. Put your fucking faces on camera to apologize for your embarrassment of a stream.
Talking about some actions we're going to take to make things better in the world of DBD.
That's right.
Better.
The health update for the health update. The initial health update proved to be such a failure that it needs its own health update to undo the damage it caused. It makes perfect sense, right? Announcing the first health update instantly got all the heat off of them. So, now to say, we want to get everyone off our case again. This one didn't go as well as they hoped. Most of the community didn't really care about the contents of the video or the promises they were making, as behavior have already broken the community's trust, so it's hard to get excited.
We're just trying to, like, not work as much as possible. That is so fucked up about these companies sometimes. It's like, you have all these things to fix your game, but it's probably just, you don't want to put the work into it, because it's probably a lot that you have to do. It's so... I hate video games sometimes so much, especially modern games.
for what's to come, when history has shown that all of these lovely things were being promised likely won't happen at all, or will happen, but will bring a plethora of new problems with them, bringing us back to square one again. Unfortunately, this one also does seem like it was put together in a hurry for the sake of public relations, which is a shame because the first one at least looked authentic. The plans are overall very generic. Add a third bug fix patch, fix high priority killer issues, slugging, tunneling and camping update, quality of life focused release. It seems more like buzzwords than actual plans, and the rushed response is even visible in the graphic itself. This is the one time you need to really prove to the community that you can do things right, that you'll stop messing things up, and that you'll put quality at the forefront of what you'll do, and you can't even align the text in your apology infographic. I know it's nitpicky in a vacuum, but how are we supposed to treat the game with care when you can't even treat your announcement with care? Seriously, look at how quick and easy it would have been to not mess it up. That's the story of how we got to where we're at now, but that doesn't have to be where the story ends. Now, I could have just made this video purely reacting to the failed livestream, mocked behaviour, and left it at that like many others have done, but this all stems from much bigger, overarching issues than I explained earlier in the video, and this is our one chance to push things in the right direction. The community is united right now, which is incredibly rare. This is our chance to put some love into the game like Behaviour should have done long ago. Behaviour, I know everything this video has covered so far hasn't been pretty, but if you want to show a real labour of love, this is your chance to join us and work with your community. Some of my friends and I would like to take this as an opportunity to extend a hand to Behaviour and offer some guidance as to what we need to see happen for the sake of this game's health. This is our chance to turn this nightmare into something genuinely positive for the game's future.
Dear Behaviour, the state of Dead by Daylight has me deeply worried. The game is incredibly bugged, phase 1 of the health update is over, it's set, we're gonna get bug fixes, and the game is more buggy than ever. I hope we're gonna get a turnaround soon, but I'm incredibly worried that that will simply not happen, because the game is more buggy than it was before the health update, and I think that is one of the highest priorities, because the health of the game is deteriorating at a fast pace, because content is still being pushed out at a pace that is obviously too fast. So I'm gonna be hoping that this health update is the turnaround point for this, otherwise I see a grim future for the game.
I think we need to talk about the micro stutters. You probably know what I'm talking about. You are getting chased as, you know, survivor, or maybe you're chasing somebody as killer, or maybe you're just walking around the map, you've just loaded into a game, and next thing you know, the game jumps you forward or back. It's almost like you're watching a video and the video is rendering really badly. I feel like as if this came in around the time of maybe 5.
I'm not a big Dead by Daylight fan, so sorry for all this like cringe over emotion for it. What these people are saying, but you have all of these intellectual properties for your asymmetrical horror game that are fucking awesome as fuck, but your video game sucks. It is unfun. It is not fun to play. And you have all these cool fucking killers that are so fucking cool, but your fucking video game sucks ass. Fix it, please. I don't want to uninstall it because I kind of think it's cool and I want to get better at it, but it fucking sucks.
Five Nights at Freddy's, maybe before that. However, it is just one of the many little things that pile up to make the game experience overall frustrating and sometimes unenjoyable. So I would really like if this was definitely fixed, addressed, looked at, on top of all the other things these folks have been talking about.
Hi, I'm Sparky. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is collision. There's a lot of issues with DBD at the moment with collision, especially have come to fruition in like the newer patches. One of them is running up and down stairs as killer, completely kills your momentum if you're in a chase, and can genuinely ruin, it has ruined games for me where I've like, you know, been so close to winning and it's caused a bug to decide whether I'm going to win or lose, which is really infuriating. Same with Survivor as well. If you're, you know, brushing off objects when you're in a lane, if you're taking a...
And they want to make it competitive. They want to make this shit competitive. And it doesn't fucking work, dude. It doesn't even feel like it's really a game.
Tight corner, for example, around an object, a car, or, I don't know, certain objects on certain maps, completely kills your momentum and stops you in place, and that can be the difference between you winning or losing a chase or the match. And when it comes down to bugs like that, and that's what causes you to win or lose, it's a bit upsetting to deal with, you know? Movement throughout the course of the game, it kind of like needs to be something that, you know, should be fixed and sorted.
So my biggest personal grievance that I have with Dead by Daylight and Behavior, and I wish they just kind of adhered to, is finally listening to the community in the sense of reworking and fixing killers. It has been years upon years now that the team works for months, fixing and changing a killer, ultimately to put something out that the community, the players, and especially content creators that have sunk thousands upon thousands of hours into that specified character, telling them that these changes and this patch will probably end up going bad, and they just ignore it, they push on through with it, Ultimately, the changes are bad, they receive a ton of backlash for it, they're forced to revert those changes and just leave bits and scraps here. That killer is then pushed on the back burner and they move on to the next thing. We have seen countless examples of this, where killers are just left in a weird and awkward state. All of this can just be avoided if they listen to the community, the players, and especially the content creators. Look, I get it, behavior thinks that sometimes the decision they're going to make is more than likely the best one, but you just can't know certain things unless you spend a lot of time with the character. To me, it's just a waste of time and resources on all fronts, because ultimately everything gets scrapped, the cycle continues, and it just goes on and on and on. We know they're capable of this because they have taken feedback from other creators in the past, and occasionally we do get some awesome changes in these mid-chapter patches, so I have full faith in them as long as they're listening to the community.
I really like playing Dead by Daylight, and I always have, but please, behavior, sort out the optimization in the game. The game has had ongoing issues with how it performs. A few years ago, before the engine updates, the game used to run smooth, like let's say 2017, 2018, you'd hardly notice any problems with it. However, nowadays, you see a lot of frame drops, stuttering, lagging to the point where your game just crashes, and it seems to get worse with each update. Also, one other thing to touch up on, but not too much, maybe add more customization options for graphic settings, like instead of it just being low, medium, high, ultra, allow people to choose what settings they want. Like let's say someone wants shadows to be high quality, they have it high quality. If they want textures to be low quality, low quality. Like other games have this nowadays. But DBD is the only one that doesn't have these settings as a normal standard. Many games, Fortnite, Outlast, they have these as a normal setting. But why is it DBD don't have this? And I love this game to bits. But the amount of performance issues it has, especially for people on console, it just needs to be brushed up on and made proper. So please listen more to the DBD community.
And I would like to take my chance to talk about killer post-animation delay. What I'm talking about is when a killer's animation has completely finished playing, but you're still not allowed to interact with anything for a random amount of time after it's finished. Take the Doctor, for example. After you've shocked a survivor, the moment the shocking animation is finished, you can immediately start breaking a pallet or vaulting a window. This is great. Then, look at Pinhead. After you chain a survivor, you regain control of the killer again, but you're not allowed to start interacting with anything despite the fact you finished your animation. It just means you're sat there spamming the spacebar, losing distance despite the fact you finished your animation. It's really clunky and can mean the difference between getting a hit or survivor reaching a loot, or even worse, Wesker. Same situation. You do your dashes and put your tentacle away, but for some reason, you can't interact with anything for an even longer amount of time.
I love Wesker, but I hate
just sit there smacking your spacebar until it eventually lets you play the game.
the movement.
To finish the video, I'd like to provide some more input regarding cheating and lag switching. Before you roll your eyes, this is something a bit more helpful than just shouting at you to fix the anti-cheat. 3 years ago, last time the community united in frustration about the cheating problems, most people were just shouting about fixing the anti-cheat. But I pointed out how fixing the client authority issues would solve the overwhelming majority of our cheating problems, and, by extension, lag issues such as unfair hits through windows when you're miles away. Clients were making decisions that the server should be making. The very next day, you confirmed that yes, clients had too much authority, and announced that you would begin working on fixing this, shifting more decisions to the servers instead. Now, of course, you don't need me to tell you that actually making those changes is a very complicated process. In fact, probably several more times work than just fixing your anti-cheat would be. We're now 3 years down the line, and unfortunately, clients still have too much authority. We know this is true because many of the most egregious hacks, such as speed hack and flying around the map, would be straight up impossible making these decisions, even if they bypass the anti-cheat. I've been told that some things have been shifted over to the server, such as nurse blinks. So,
I joined midway through the conversation, immediately knew it was DBD. I don't want to buy it if the game is stupid. Bad news, homie. DBD had bots. I would have been there. Sadly. I've never read the sentence. I have a good time with DBD.
I know it's a very big workload and it's very
Rest in peace. Yeah, but
we're stuck with the same problems we had back then. Additionally, I recently learned that my peers actually weren't being unreasonable in saying, fix your anti-cheat. Because it turns out, it genuinely is as simple as that. If we go into DBD's installation folder, then into
hello, Jericho. Thank you. I agree. I've never read it. I never read it since I have a good time with DBD.
Time to buy that license and upgrade to the full edition of Easy Anti-Cheat. You're making enough money now. What makes it even better is that it seems when you buy a license, Epic even offer you support in integrating it into your game properly. So it shouldn't be too
thank you for stopping by.
themselves helping you. I know it's easy to write this off as some YouTuber talking about things he doesn't know about, so don't just let me tell you. I brought in an expert. Interviews with game hackers are nothing new, even in DBD.
I'm just a casual player of DBD, but I think it's fun, but it's so hard. I always lose anytime it's killer. I don't know if I just suck that much and people troll me all the time in it. it's funny, but sometimes I just don't know what the fuck to do. I'm just chasing people round and round. And I don't know if that's what they consider fun.
Some of the most experienced developers, hackers, and reverse engineers in the world, with people from all walks of life, from anti-cheat developers at Riot Games to some of the top cheat developers on the planet, and found somebody with over a decade of experience in reverse engineering popular games and anti-cheat, as well as developing cheats for said games. My contact decided to remain anonymous for various reasons, whether that's to avoid trouble from behavior or due to a conflict of interest from the community, given that this information is provided to help behavior instead of the cheating community. This is what they have to say. When we were talking, you mentioned that cheat developers use DBD as practice for bypassing Easy Anti-Cheat before moving on to other games like Rust. Why is that? I think that's just preference because DBD accounts are cheap and EAC has always appeared to be weaker or not fully leveraged. Put a different way, DBD and Rust EAC more or less have similar checks in their entry point and during runtime of the game, but it appears to be less aggressively pursuing flags. Additionally, if you get banned on DBD while toying with what works and what doesn't, it's easy to get another account. Okay, tying into that, DBD uses the free version of Easy Anti-Cheat that comes bundled with Unreal Engine. Do you think upgrading to the full version would have any tangible impact? I think it would have a meaningful impact if integrated properly. In the past, there were games where you could still launch and connect to the master server and play online with EAC disabled, which was accomplished through modifying a config. This is a problem DBD encountered a long time ago, but has since remediated. remediated, and then level first. Earlier you mentioned bypassing SSL pinning. What is that, and what does bypassing it allow you to achieve? So, SSL pinning is just embedding a copy of the server's SSL certificate, public key, in the game or application. When a client establishes a secure connection to a server, the server presents its certificate and then the application matches the public key against the pinned data, or the embedded certificate. If the given certificate matches the pinned one, the connection proceeds. Otherwise, the connection is closed and there's no additional exchanges. There's two methods they use. Static pinning, when they hardcode a public key into the client, but this requires the client to update if any changes to the server are made. Or dynamic pinning is the alternative, which caches the public key, or certificate, after an initial connection and then that's checked in any sessions created later. It's usually an attempt at defense in depth, to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. The reality is that bypasses are a dime a dozen. Some apps make it more difficult than others, but usually it's a few simple patches. Bypassing it would allow someone to replay or modify API requests responsible for unlocking things like DLCs, items, characters, etc. Bypassing pinning can be as easy as replacing a resource file for the game, as was possible in 2022 for DBD, to avoid the client rejecting self-signed or tampered with certificates. A new method exists, and all that's required is that you intercept the inventory response and replace it with a max inventory, whether that's all characters or items, etc. At this point he gives a quick breakdown of how to do it. I'm not going to broadcast that for obvious reasons. Of course, you're aware of the client authority issues that we've been dealing with for over 3 years. If the devs fixed it, what type of hacks would become impossible and which ones would remain? I don't know all the issues that have been experienced. I don't track the DBD pay hack scene, but I know teleporting, accepting malformed data from clients, resulting in game crashes, as well as full inventory unlocks. When a game relies heavily on client-side authority, that typically means a server will trust the client when reporting player positions, actions, player state transitions, etc. Teleporting was possible in PUBG because of this kind of issue, pulling all players to a position or placing yourself somewhere else. EFT had an issue that allowed a form of no-clip because there was no Z-clipping, which allowed for a battle-eye safe no-clip. DBD is already suffering from problematic features in these hacks, and will probably have issues with more as pay hack providers try to find the next cool feature to give their product an edge. If the devs overhaul the replication system and press the critical features to become server authoritative, then position and movement exploits would likely be resolved. No teleporting, no clip, desyncs, etc. Is there any advice you can give behavior from your perspective that might help them sort this? I'm sure plenty of people have hit on this if it's coming up in your video, but the overhauling of the majority of critical features to utilize the server authoritative systems would be a start. All critical state changes, etc. must be validated by the server. RPC validation, input tracking, and game and time state transitions would be necessary. That said, it's a pretty massive architectural overhaul. I don't know how large the behavior team is either, so the time to accomplish this could vary significantly. If they have the server validate player positions, they effectively remove the positional and movement hacks. Player wants to teleport to a location? No, invalid. You're too far away and that movement doesn't make sense, so then it reconciles the difference. This would require a bit of a lift though. They need to avoid causing bottlenecks for players if they lag or some other transient legitimate issue occurs, so having rollback would be necessary. Building on the previous example, player is moving, jumps to a new location slightly outside of maximum movement, maybe they lag and their position suddenly updates. Server validates and corrects the client, but the client needs to show that immediate feedback even if it's wrong until the server repositions them. It's the same kind of server validation that was done on Halo PC 2004. If you enabled super jump but were not the host of the server, all other players would see you jump normally, but on your screen there would be a moment where you're ascending higher and higher, almost lagging upward, and it would plant you back on the ground. If a game engine written in 2004 can achieve this, people using Unreal Engine most certainly can as well, as it's already available to them. I think it's important people give them time to do this though, because it's not always a simple fix. The specifics are obviously going to be up to them, but general critical features need to be moved. Limiting hackers to ESP name prediction, like Huntress is still an improvement. For several years, it was common knowledge in the cheating community that DBD didn't even have EAC implemented correctly, but you mentioned that that's no longer the case. Would you say DBD's implementation is now fairly good? As far as I know, EAC is properly implemented. One of the problems that gave it this designation was that there were issues with being able to connect to live game servers without EAC, which has since been rectified. Another was the same type of thing, far earlier, and was done through disabling Steam Cloud, but this was 2017. So overall, a lot of the same things that I've been saying here. Thank you to Secret Club for taking your time to do this. So, there you have it. Behavior, we love Dead by Daylight, but right now we need you to show us that you love it too. This video is a perfect opportunity for you to link up with the community and let us know that you're genuinely listening for real this time.
Nikki is still not home. Nikki is still out there somewhere, and we want her back.
A missing California woman has never been...
Oops. I'm gonna take a little buyout break. Jericho, thank you for stopping by. And yeah, I agree. There's never a never read the sentence "I have a good time with DVD" that really made me laugh. I don't know if you could hear me very good over the computer audio, but thank you for stopping by. And I'll be right back. I have to buyout break, and I'll continue my very gay drawing. And I might watch something else or listen to music. Who knows? We'll see. I'll be right back.
You choose her or not choose for with a skip of heart. She's one cool calm, her DK. Donkey Kong. He has no style. He has no grace. This Kong has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs his tune. Huh, DK. Donkey Kong. Huh, DK. Donkey Kong. DK. Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time, he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jetpack on. With his pistols out. He's one tough Kong. He'll make you smile when he plays his tune. But gremlins beware, cause he's after you. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. Huh. Finally, he's here for you. It's the last member of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for mommy. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong's one hell of a guy. Huh. Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. You choose her or not choose wrong. With a skipper heart. She's one cool Kong. Huh. DK. Donkey Kong. He has no style. He has no grace. This Kong has a funny face. He can handstand when he needs to and stretch his arms out just for you. Inflate himself just like a balloon. This crazy Kong just digs his tune. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. Huh, DK, Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong is here. He's back again and about time too. And this time, he's in the mood. He can fly real high with his jetpack on. With his pistols out. He's one tough Kong. He'll make you smile when he plays his tune. But gremlins beware, cause he's after you. Huh, DK, Here for you, it's the last member of the DK crew. This Kong's so strong, it isn't funny. Can make a gremlin cry out for mommy. Can pick up a boulder with relative ease. Makes crushing rocks seem such a breeze. He may move slow, he can't jump high, but this Kong's one hell of a guy. Huh. Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells. Grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. You choose her or not choose for with a skipper heart. She's one cool, calm, hoodie.
Right back. Hello. Oh.
Storm Debuel was a 22-year-old Belgian YouTuber known for sharing his adventures across Northern Europe. He never spoke in any of his videos and instead used the ambient sounds of nature to make his viewers feel like they were right there with him. And while he started uploading videos in August of 2024, he'd actually been solo camping ever since he was just 19 years old. At one point, he even biked over 3,700 miles or over 6,000 kilometers across Sweden all on his own. So, he had plenty of experience surviving in the wilderness alone. However, when nature turns unpredictable, even the most prepared adventurers find themselves struggling to survive. Tragically, that's exactly what happened with Storm on the night of October 29th, 2024. He was recording another video, this time traveling through the Jokkmokk region located in the Swedish Lapland, known for its beautiful snowy vistas and frequent aurora sightings. Now, Storm usually parked his car in a nearby town and then ventured into the wilderness on foot with his camping gear. These trips often lasted multiple days, sometimes even a whole week before he made it back. October 29th was the last day of one of these trips. He was making his way back and was only a day's walk away from his car, but it was quickly getting dark and continuing to walk would have been extremely dangerous. So Storm made the decision to set up his tent and sleep for the night. A cold breeze was already sweeping through the region, prompting Storm to mound snow around his tent as a makeshift barrier before going to sleep. Unfortunately, nothing could have prepared him for the extreme weather he was about to encounter. Because just a few hours after setting his tent, the Jokkmokk region got hit by an intense blizzard with winds reaching up to 75 miles per hour or around 120 kilometers per hour. Snow quickly started piling up all around his tent as well. But worst of all, the temperature not only fell below freezing to 21 Fahrenheit or -6 Celsius, the strong wind made it feel as cold as 0 Fahrenheit or -18 Celsius. Maybe he realized the gravity of his situation at this point and wanted to contact his loved ones. Because at around midnight, his friend received a video of him showing his tent getting torn apart by the terrifyingly strong wind, with him stating, "Tonight it's going to get worse, Jesus Christ." He also called his grandmother right after and reassured her of his safety, stating, "It's snowing heavily here, but don't worry, I'll survive, you know." Then, at 2:36 a.m., the Swedish authorities received an SOS call from Storm. He reported multiple injuries, including a broken nose, and requested immediate help. Unfortunately, the strong wind made it impossible to reach him with a helicopter, and the snow obstructed any rescue efforts on the ground. The blizzard eventually subsided at around 10 a.m., and the rescuers rushed to Storm's last known location. Sadly, by the time they found him, it was already too late. The lower half of his body had turned purple due to the extreme cold, and even the blood on his face from the broken nose was frozen solid. Oddly enough, he was found roughly 1.6 miles or 2.6 kilometers away from his collapsed tent. It's unclear if he was forced to ditch the tent after it collapsed or if he set out before that happened. In either case, he was walking towards his car when he likely fell, broke his nose, and then contacted the authorities. The only silver lining in Storm's tragic end is that at least he died doing what he loved, as he told his father when he first started going on these solo camping trips, "Dad, it took me a long time to know what I wanted, but that's what I want." Hannah Rose Moody was a 31-year-old YouTuber and influencer from Scottsdale, Arizona. And while most of her content on YouTube revolved around her faith as a Christian, her Instagram account posted mostly different content. There, she made regular posts about her hiking adventures across the rocky desert terrain of Arizona. Hitting the trails several times a week had become a natural part of her routine ever since she moved to Arizona 6 months earlier. And May 21st was supposed to be no different. She got up early and quickly drove to the Gateway Trailhead located in the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. She parked her car and began the roughly 4.5-mile or 7-kilometer hike across the Loop Trail. It was a moderately challenging trail with a rocky path and noticeable elevation changes, but nothing Hannah hadn't tackled before. She felt fairly confident she could finish the hike in under 3 hours and even made plans to hang out with friends at lunch. Unfortunately, what started as just another ordinary hike ended with a devastating tragedy. Her friends were the first to sense something was wrong when Hannah didn't show up for lunch on time. She didn't send any messages about running late and wasn't picking up her phone either. It wasn't like her to ghost people out of nowhere. So, after waiting at the restaurant for many hours, her friends decided to check on Hannah at her home at around 7:50 p.m., hoping she was simply resting after a tough hike. But when they arrived at her house, her car was missing from the driveway, the lights were off, and the door was locked. Seeing this, they immediately contacted the authorities. They found her car still parked at the trailhead, and it wasn't long before the search party was looking for Hannah across the Gateway Loop Trail with helicopters, drones, and canines. The search was eventually called off at 11:30 p.m. due to the darkness, and resumed the next morning with even more people partaking in the search. This went on till about 12:05 p.m. when a helicopter pilot made the heartbreaking discovery Hannah's friends and family were dreading all night. Just 600 yards off the trail, rescuers discovered the remains of Hannah Moody lying face down on the desert ground. Hannah was dead, and likely had been for several hours. However, there was nothing that could explain her end right away. There were no signs of foul play, no intoxicating substances were found in her system, and she didn't even have any serious head injuries from a fall or stumble. With that, the only explanation investigators were able to come up with was that Hannah lost her life due to extreme heat. You see, the temperature in the Gateway Trail region soared to over 102 Fahrenheit, or about 39 Celsius the day prior when Hannah was hiking. She likely suffered from a heat stroke and wandered off the designated path in confusion before collapsing and eventually passing away, leaving her YouTube and Instagram videos as an unintentional final goodbye to her loved ones. Finn Creaney was a 33-year-old survival expert from the Pitt County area in Scotland. Utilizing the skills he had, Finn operated a survival school in the area called Wildcat Bushcraft, teaching kids general wilderness survival skills as well as bushcraft, which, for those who don't know, includes things like foraging, hunting, and building shelter out of natural materials. The business was also accompanied by a YouTube channel of the same name, where Finn shared his knowledge and experience with the world for free. His content was both informative and entertaining, allowing him to slowly build a small but loyal audience. What these viewers didn't realize, however, was that one day, this very channel would also play a role in Finn's tragic end. Things went south on the 25th of March 2022 when Finn was dropped off at the B873 road near Loch Naver in Sutherland. His goal was to head south and hike the 45-mile distance to the small village of Golspie and make a video about the bushcrafting skills he had used along the way. Now, his family knew the journey would take more than a day, so they weren't too concerned when he didn't reach his destination right away. But then 3 days passed, and there was no sign of Finn anywhere. Even more concerning was the fact that he didn't make any contact throughout this time, with every call from his family going straight to voicemail. So, on day 3, Finn's father called the police and filed a missing person report, all while holding on to the hope that his son was simply lost, had broken his phone, or was just taking his time on the hike. Sadly, that couldn't have been further from the truth. In reality, Finn had somehow vanished from the area without a trace, and despite the police spending months searching the area surrounding Loch Naver, they couldn't find a single clue about his current whereabouts. Finn was even featured on a British unsolved mystery-style show about missing people called Vanished, but that also led nowhere. However, even after a year of fruitless searching, his father Mark didn't give up and kept looking for his son on his own. And after 19 months of following the same routine, he finally found the first real clue, Finn's backpack, partially hidden in the bushes along the bank of Loch Naver. While Mark never disclosed exactly what was inside, it gave him and the rest of Finn's family reason to believe that Finn had tried to take a shortcut across the loch and ended up drowning by accident. So, after searching for his body for a few more months, they made the tough decision to stop searching and accept the fact that Finn was truly gone. That said, many on the internet find it hard to believe that Finn actually tried to swim across the Naver and lost control in the process. Many asked why a professional survivalist would make such a rookie mistake, especially when he still had a multiple miles-long journey ahead of him, even if he had somehow made it across the Loch Naver. This doubt has given rise to many alternative theories that attempt to explain his mysterious disappearance. These range from fairly out there speculations like Finn doing this to fake his own death and build a new life, to some truly chilling hypotheticals like Finn going into the loch on purpose to end it all. Unfortunately, there just isn't enough evidence to confirm or deny any of these theories. What exactly happened to Finn remains a mystery to this day. Andrew Cross was a 36-year-old outdoor YouTuber from Grand Junction, Colorado. His channel, Desert Drifter, featured content that could only be described as archaeology mixed with exploration. He visited and made videos about any place he found interesting, from thousands years old stone walls to abandoned German spy caves from World War II. Beyond just being educational, his videos also boasted top-tier production quality, helping Andrew amass a massive audience in just 14 months on YouTube. Most importantly, his viewers loved his content and eagerly waited for the next upload. But then Andrew suddenly stopped posting after his upload in January 2025. Some assumed he was simply taking a break, while others figured the delay was due to his next video taking longer to produce. It wasn't until the 2nd of February that viewers received the truth from Andrew's wife, Evelyn, and it was far worse than any of his fans could have imagined. Andrew had gotten into a horrible car accident. He was waiting at a stoplight on the intersection between 1st Street and North Avenue in Grand Junction while on his way back from shooting a video about the Bears Ears National Monument in Utah on January 31st, 2025. When, out of nowhere, an out-of-control car rear-ended Andrew at an extremely high speed, resulting in his car flipping over and causing severe brain damage. He was rushed to a nearby hospital almost immediately. Unfortunately, it was already too late. He spent over a month in the ICU and was put on life support. During this time, it became abundantly clear that Andrew sadly had no chance of recovering from his injuries. So, on March 4th at around 10:50 a.m., his family made the difficult decision to let him rest and remove the life support system keeping him on the edge of life. This was devastating news for his hundreds of thousands of fans who were blissfully looking forward to his next upload not too long ago. These fans also banded together and raised over $544,000 for Andrew's family in their time of need. As for the person responsible for the crash, named Ragnar Nicholas Crystal, he was arrested 20 days later on February 21st and was later charged with vehicular homicide and driving under the influence. He's still awaiting conviction at the time of writing. On May 6, 2019, YouTuber Connor Kelly posted a video of him exploring an abandoned McCoy gold mine.
They seemed like an ordinary couple and blending into the background.
I'll be right back real quick.
But behind closed doors, Michel Fournier and his wife, Monique Olivier, were living a deeply perverse double life. The couple was arrested in Belgium after a young woman they had abducted made a daring escape and alerted the authorities. What initially appeared to be a single horrific crime quickly unraveled into something far bigger. Investigators uncovered a brutal trail of crimes stretching back to 1987. Their methods of luring, capturing, and ultimately destroying their victims were so depraved that they became the most hated figures in the region. This case is truly one of the most shocking I've come across. They feel like a French version of Fred and Rose West, a killer couple who work together, each of them covering the flaws of the other and helping them to evade capture for decades. Some of the lengths they went to are truly sickening. But before we dive in, if you find this video fascinating, then please drop it a like and leave me a comment below. And if you are new here, then please hit the subscribe button and consider following me on Instagram. It all really helps. Thank you. This video is created solely for educational and documentary purposes. It does not endorse or condone the criminal actions described within. On June 26, 2003, Michel Fournier was prowling the streets near the village of Saint-Custine in a white van when he spotted a young female walking alone on a main street. 13-year-old Marie was on her way home when he pulled up beside her, pretending to be lost. He asked for directions to the town hall. Polite and eager to help, Marie offered the directions, but then Fournier asked if she could get in the van and guide him there. He seemed kind, harmless even, and Marie, not sensing any danger, agreed. The moment she got inside, everything changed. Marie would later describe how his entire demeanor shifted. The friendly stranger turned menacing. He asked her chillingly if she was still a virgin. Then he told her that he was going to take her virginity. Terrified, Marie asked if he was going to kill her. He smiled slowly, and with a sinister look in his eyes, he said no. But it was clear that this was not true. The fear was overwhelming. Marie thought she was going to die. She then asked if he worked with Marc Dutroux, the notorious Belgian serial killer. Fournier replied, "No, I'm worse than Dutroux."
He then bound her hands, feet, and body with ropes in the back of the van. I started to panic a lot, Maria later said. I started praying. Fournier got back in the driver's seat and began driving, heading towards the countryside. But Marie didn't panic. With extraordinary presence of mind, she quietly worked at the ropes and stayed calm. She managed to set herself free, but she waited. When the van finally slowed at a stop sign, Marie saw her chance. She burst out the back door and ran. Unfortunately, Fournier didn't see her escape. As she sprinted down the road, panic-stricken and breathless, a car approached. A woman behind the wheel stopped when she saw Marie's distress. Sobbing and shaking, Marie told her everything. The driver began to take Marie straight to the nearest police station. Meanwhile, by this point, Fournier had realized Maria had escaped. He turned the van around and began looking for her. As Maria and the driver headed to the station, the white van approached them. They literally drove right past the van. And as they did, Maria pointed, screaming, saying that was him. Fortunately, the driver memorized the license plate as they drove past and gave it to the police when they arrived. The van was registered to a woman named Monique Olivier, but Marie said it was a man who had abducted her. So police looked at Monique's husband, Michel Fournier, and he was arrested that very day. Marie formally identified him at the station. In custody, Fournier admitted to the abduction, but denied that he had any intention of harming her. Police immediately suspected Michel Fournier of being involved in the disappearances and murders of two other young females, Céline Saison and Magnana Thumpong. Both had been abducted in broad daylight. Their bodies were later discovered in Belgium, not far from where Maria had escaped. To Belgium authorities, it was shocking, not just the crime, but the man behind it. Fournier had no criminal record in Belgium. He was seen as a quiet, ordinary man, living in a remote village. How had someone like him gone unnoticed for so long? The truth is, he hadn't. In France, he was far from unknown, and soon, Belgian police would uncover the deeply disturbing past of the man they had caught red-handed. The very next day, June 27th, police searched the home of Michel Fournier and his wife, Monique Olivier. Inside, they found the house to be a mess, and in the basement, officers found some disturbing evidence. Handcuffs, youth's clothing, knives, guns, sedative masks, condoms, ropes, duct tape, and ski masks. It was a terrifying collection of items that pointed to sinister activities. The white van used to abduct Marie was also searched, revealing the most damning evidence. A hair was found, but it had no root, so a DNA match could not be confirmed. But it was distinctly the same type of hair belonging to Magnana Thumpong. Although officers could not prove it in court, they were now sure they had their man, but they were still not ready for what was soon to be revealed. During interrogation, Fournier revealed himself as a cold, manipulative, and eerily calculated man. He refused to speak freely. When asked a question, he would often sit in silence for several minutes before offering a few sparse, cryptic words. Investigators quickly realized that they were dealing with a highly dangerous individual. After a few weeks of interrogation, the authorities knew they would have to try something else, as Fournier was not going to willingly admit to anything, and they needed to build more of a case against him. This is when they turned their attention to his wife, Monique Olivier. Olivier had no prior record. She appeared timid, even fragile, often nodding instead of speaking. She seemed like a submissive woman, beaten down by years under Fournier's control. Interrogators asked her that if she knows anything that had happened to those innocent youths, then you need to help us. Now is the time. Olivier replied, "Frankly, I don't know anything. I realize how serious the situation is. My husband worked normally at home, and I never noticed anything that would have made me question his behavior." To the police, she seemed like a woman protecting her husband, perhaps out of fear. They believed she knew more than she was letting on. For a year, interrogations continued without a breakthrough, without a confession. The clock was ticking. If Fournier wasn't charged, he would soon walk free. Investigators had managed to place him near the sites of multiple abductions, using receipts and circumstantial evidence, but it still wasn't enough. Monique Olivier, however, was beginning to crack. Fournier still gave nothing away, but Olivier, now under mounting pressure, was wearing thin. And then, finally, on June 22nd, 2004, she dropped the bombshell. Visibly shaking, she told the interrogators, "It's true. I haven't told you everything. I'm determined to tell the truth now. What I'm saying is not made up. There was nothing I could do. My husband used to go out in his van. He said he was going to hunt young females." Then the confession came. She admitted she knew about 6 murders. Since the start of our life together at the end of 1987, to my knowledge, he has killed at least 6 women. Isabelle Laville, Farida Helagosh, Jean-Marie Desamé, Elizabeth Brichet, Céline Saison, and Magnana Thumpong. She also revealed that his actions led to the deaths of 2 others, Natasha Daniels and Fabienne Leroy. Police were stunned. Could one man really be behind so many murders whilst being undetected? The next morning, Fournier was brought to court. Calmly, he told the judge, "I heard on the radio this morning that my name was mentioned with several abductions and murders. One of my wife's qualities is that she is not dishonest." He claimed Olivier had no part in the crimes, that she only tolerated what he did out of fear for her own life. He admitted to the murders, whilst clearing Olivier's name, but investigators didn't buy it. They believed Monique Olivier was more cunning than she appeared. They thought she was manipulative and complicit, and they were right. Later that very day, close to midnight, Olivier dropped a second bombshell. She admitted she hadn't just known about the crimes, but she had participated in them. She helped lure and abduct the victims. She had been there, part of it all. That's when the full horror began to take shape. This wasn't just a predator working alone. It was a serial killer couple. But even at this point, the depths of their depravity was still unclear to the authorities. Michel Fournier had a dark obsession with virginity. It was this fixation that fed his perverse desires, driving him to rob young women of their innocence in ways that were not only sadistic, but brutally violent and ultimately fatal. But where did this deviant craving come from? Fournier himself was born in 1942 in the quiet town of Sedan in the Ardennes region of France. His father worked as a metal labourer and his mother stayed at home. On the surface, their family life seemed totally normal. As a youth, Fournier was described as quiet and introspective. He preferred solitude, classical music, and enjoyed playing chess, activities that revealed intelligence and discipline. At first glance, he appeared harmless, but as he got older, things began to change. Fournier claimed his mother intimately abused him multiple times as he was growing up. This would have left deep scars on his psyche and likely added to his perversion with stealing virginities. When he was young, he would complain about hearing his sister use a bucket as a toilet. He said, and quote, "This is unbecoming of a woman. It is degrading." This did not live up to his perfect image that he had of a woman. When he was 12 years old, he was out on his bike and he claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary. He got off his bike and collapsed and went into a trance-like state. Did this really happen? Or was this just his own delusions growing inside him? Either way, the Virgin Mary would become his ideal and who he would compare all other women to. As Michel Fournier entered adulthood, he bounced between various low-paying jobs, as a school supervisor. But by the age of 24, in 1966, while working in a factory, the first of his known crimes came to light. Despite being married and having a son, Fournier was caught intimately assaulting a youth. This led to his imprisonment, and his wife left him. He would later claim that it was he who left his wife after discovering that she wasn't a virgin when they met. After serving time, Fournier moved to Paris in a bid to escape his past. He remarried in 1969 and had 3 more youths, but while his outward life seemed to stabilize, the darkness within him grew. For years, his crimes went unchecked until his actions finally caught up with him. At the age of 42, he was accused once again of intimately assaulting a female youth. This time, he also attempted to abduct her. During police interrogation, Fournier would end up shockingly confessing to having committed 15 intimate assaults on youths between 1977 and 1984. All of his victims were female. To trap them, he used terrifying methods like carrying a syringe filled with a substance, which later turned out to be just water, or wielding a handgun to intimidate and control. He would force his victims into his car, drive them to a remote countryside location, and subject them to horrific abuse. These revelations were just the tip of the iceberg. What lay beneath was a chilling reality of a predator who had been hiding in plain sight for decades. What makes Michel Fournier's crimes even more harrowing is how methodical he was. He didn't just commit these acts, he documented them in a journal. He recorded the details of each assault, noting the location, the method of coercion, whether he used a handgun or threatened them with a syringe, and he listed the names of his victims, if he knew them. One of the most unsettling entries in his records was whether the victim was a virgin or not. That detail, virginity, became a grotesque fixation, an obsession that bled into every page of his confessions. It was central to his sick ideology. In custody, Fournier even drew a chart of his crimes, categorizing each assault by these perverse specifications. During his interrogations, Fournier rambled about female purity, about meeting the Virgin Mary, speaking not with guilt, but with a disturbing sense of entitlement. There was no remorse, no humanity, just a delusional man, utterly without empathy. One key moment in his confession stood out. He admitted to having penetrated a victim only once, a case he chillingly referred to as his most serious. The victim was a teenage female called Dahina Le Guenin. She was just 14 at the time. The assault took place in 1982 in Épernon, just outside of Paris. Dahina had just arrived at the train station, walking home after visiting a friend. She had no idea that a predator was already watching her. Michel Fournier had parked his car just up the road, waiting. As she approached, he stepped out and used one of his preferred tactics, the syringe. Holding it in front of her, he ordered her to get in the car. Once inside, he tried to calm her. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I've stolen this car and I'm on the run from the police. I just need to get to the border. Help me with directions and I'll let you go, as long as you don't scream or try to escape." Terrified but trapped, Dahina complied and climbed into the passenger seat. As they drove, the conversation took a darker turn. Fournier began talking about his first wife, and how she disappointed him because she wasn't a virgin, even though he believed she was. There was a bitterness in his voice. His obsession with virginity was already taking over the situation. He told Dahina he had been, and quote, searching for the mystery of virginity ever since. Then casually, he asked if she was a virgin, sensing danger behind the question. Dahina lied. She told him no. She could feel what he wanted to hear, and she gave him the opposite. Though he hadn't been overtly vulgar or violent, something in the air felt wrong. Dahina later said she had a feeling that something terrible was going to happen. As they neared the end of the journey, Fournier pulled off the road and into a wooded area. They both stepped out of the car. At first, he told her that he would arrange for someone to come pick her up, but then he changed his mind. He told Dahina he would tie her up and make it look like he had forced himself on her, but only to make it look like she hadn't helped him, so no one could accuse her of being an accomplice. Desperate to believe him, she didn't resist, and then he actually forced himself on her. Afterwards, he cried as he put his clothes back on. Then, without saying much, he drove her home. Shaken and unsure, Dahina eventually told her mother what had happened. Together, they went to the police to file a report, but justice would not come quickly. Fournier wouldn't be captured until 2 years later, in 1984. While Fournier awaited trial in prison, he kept a low profile as a convicted intimate offender. He knew exactly what kind of target he'd become behind bars, but he found unlikely protection in another inmate, a gang member and burglar named Jean-Pierre Helleguart. Helleguart didn't know the full extent for what Fournier was truly in for. Still, his reputation was enough to keep other prisoners at bay, giving Fournier space and time to plan. Even behind bars, his obsession with virginity hadn't faded. It had only become more focused. From the safety of his cell, he began plotting how to continue his search once he was free. Then, he placed an ad in a magazine called Le Pèlerin. It was a Christian magazine. It was simple and said, prisoner seeking to correspond with someone of any age to forget loneliness. That single sentence would change everything. It was through this ad that Monique Olivier entered his life, the woman who would not only become his wife, but also his accomplice. She began writing to him, and over the next 10 months, a dangerous bond began to form. Hidden within their correspondence was more than affection. There was a pact, and one that would evolve into a deadly alliance. At first glance, Monique Olivier appeared perfectly ordinary, kind, helpful, and unassuming. She had no criminal record and lived a quiet life, but beneath that exterior lay a woman formed by isolation, trauma, and deep-seated loneliness. Monique was born in Tours and moved to Nantes at the age of 4. Her childhood was marred by dysfunction. Her mother was an alcoholic, driven to drink by the shame of her husband's double life. He openly cheated and made no effort to hide it, which humiliated the family in public. The shame left scars. Monique, already shy and reserved, also struggled with a stammer that only deepened her sense of being different, unseen, and unheard. By 1972, she was married to a man named Andre, but her marriage soon became a nightmare. According to Olivier, Andre was controlling and manipulative. She wasn't allowed to speak to others without fear of punishment. The relationship, which lasted 10 years and produced 2 sons, was filled with fear and silence. She claimed the turning point came when Andre took up painting. The paint fumes, she said, warped his mind, making him increasingly paranoid and violent. He believed that she was cheating on him, and his possessiveness spiraled. Monique described years of brutal physical abuse, being kicked, beaten with belts, and held under scalding hot water in attempted drownings. But the most shocking accusation was that Andre would take her to public parks and pimp her out to other men, his warped solution to their financial struggles. None of this, however, was ever reported or proven. Andre denied every allegation, insisting he had done nothing wrong. Olivier's version of events stands as her word alone. Eventually, she broke. She left him and their 2 sons. Overwhelmed and unable to cope, she gave up custody, a decision she would later say filled her with guilt. Alone and without family or friends, Olivier drifted into a life of empty solitude, and that's when she saw it, the ad in Le Pèlerin, placed by a prisoner named Michel Fournier. She wasn't seeking a criminal. What she wanted, in her own words, was a strong man, someone who could take control. She found that strength in Fournier, and he, in turn, found in her the perfect accomplice. By the time Olivier responded to Fournier's ad in Le Pèlerin, she was 38 years old, divorced, alone, and working as a carer in the south of France. Their correspondence took off almost instantly. Love, or something close to it, quickly grew between the 2 strangers. For Olivier, who lived in isolation for years, these letters became a lifeline, and Fournier knew exactly how to exploit this vulnerability. Rest assured, Monique, he wrote. Somewhere, there is someone who needs you. You are not alone anymore, he wrote. It worked, and they began dating through the radio, tuning into the same broadcasts at the same time, pretending they were together. It became their shared ritual, a way to close the distance without ever having met in person. Then, Fournier proposed. In a letter, he asked Olivier to marry him, and she said yes. She was drawn in by his words and his ability to make her feel needed. The fact that he was in prison didn't bother her, nor did the crimes that had put him there. Their letters were long and written in small, hard-to-read handwriting. Prison staff rarely had the time or patience to read every word. That oversight gave them freedom. a freedom to speak more openly about things that would have otherwise been stopped. Fournier didn't hide his past. He spoke of the abuse he claimed to have suffered and, more importantly, the abuse he had inflicted. He wrote of his obsession with virgins, describing them as membranes on legs and referring to his genitalia as the rainbow he wished to pierce them with. He described his past victims in grotesque detail, with the same perverse pride he had shown in his police interviews. Most people would have been horrified. Most people would have stopped writing, but Monique Olivier did the opposite. Fournier wanted her to help him hunt for virgins upon his release, and Olivier agreed to help him. But she wanted something in return. She asked Fournier to murder her ex-husband, and he agreed. This would become their pact, one that would tie them to each other through blood, control, and death. When Michel Fournier stood trial, Dahina, the youth he had abducted and assaulted, took to the stand as the main character, seeking justice, and was hopeful to put Fournier behind bars for a very long time. But justice never came. Instead, Dahina was humiliated. The defense didn't just question her, they attacked her. They claimed that because she hadn't physically fought back, she must have been complicit in the assault. It was cruel, twisted logic that ignored fear, trauma, and the survival instinct that often freezes victims in place. Dahina told the court she hadn't resisted because she was terrified. In the end, the charge against Fournier was reduced from intimate assault to simple assault, a staggering downgrade for such a brutal crime. He was sentenced to 7 years, but with 3 already served in pre-trial detention, he would only remain behind bars for a few more months. And then, on October 27th, 1987, at the age of 45, Michel Fournier walked free. But this time, he wasn't just a lone predator. Waiting for him on the outside was Monique Olivier, ready and willing to help him continue his horrific hunt for virgins. Together, their real reign of terror was about to begin. After Michel Fournier's release from prison, he and Monique Olivier relocated to the small remote town of Saint-Cyr-Cologne in Burgundy. There, Fournier had inherited a house. It was secluded, quiet, and perfect for their dark plans. No one in the town knew of Fournier's past. There was no offender registry, no surveillance, no warnings. The authorities had no reason to track him. The couple blended in with ease, appearing as nothing more than a reclusive pair in the countryside. In reality, they were preparing to kill, and it only took 6 weeks before they struck. In December 1987, Fournier noticed 17-year-old Isabelle Laville walking home from school. She was young, innocent, and in Fournier's eyes, the perfect target. Over the following days, he watched her, memorized her routes. Then, together with Olivier, they formed a plan for their first murder. On December 11th, Isabelle left school as usual, but she would never be seen again. That afternoon, Monique Olivier drove alone, tracking Isabelle in her car. She pulled up beside the teenager and asked for directions. Isabelle, polite and unsuspecting, offered to help. When Olivier asked if she'd mind hopping in to show her the way, it wasn't far off Isabelle's usual route, and so she agreed. It was a woman driving after all. To her, it felt safe. A few minutes later, they saw a white van up the road. A man stood beside it, waving for help. Isabelle and Olivier pulled over. It was Fournier, playing the part of a stranded driver. Olivier pretended not to know him. "Need a lift to the garage?" she asked. He said yes, and Olivier told him to get in. He climbed into the back seat, then the trap sprung into action. As they drove, the small talk quickly shifted. Olivier reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small packet. She ordered Isabelle to take what was inside. When the youth hesitated, Fournier pulled out a rope and wrapped it around her neck and said, "If you don't, things will end very badly." Terrified, Isabelle complied. The substances quickly took effect, and she began to fade into unconsciousness. As they drove her home, it was getting dark, but still, to avoid suspicion, the couple propped Isabelle between them as they walked, her limp arms slung over their shoulders. They were pretending she was drunk. Once inside the house, they laid her on the bed and tied her down. She was still unconscious. Fournier entered the room alone, but when he tried to force himself on her, he failed. Fournier struggled with impotency. Enraged and frustrated, he left the room and found Olivier. What happened next made her not only part of the abduction, but also the intimate abuse. He asked her for help, and Olivier performed fellatio on him to prepare him for the assault. Then, once ready, he returned to the room and committed the attack. This was not a passive bystander. Monique Olivier was a full participant in the planning, the deception, and the violation itself. Together, they crossed the line from fantasy into horrifying reality, and this would only be the beginning. The morning after the attack, Michel Fournier strangled 17-year-old Isabelle Laville to death. He and Monique Olivier then dumped the body into a well, not far from their home. And just like that, she was gone. But the response to her disappearance was shockingly lackluster. Authorities quickly labelled her a runaway, despite the protests of her family, who insisted she'd been buying Christmas presents and was excited to see her sister for the holidays. But the police showed little urgency. A search was launched, but quickly faded. After just 6 weeks, Isabelle was declared missing. And just like that, Fournier and Olivier were free to kill again. Soon after the murder, the couple ran low on money. Fournier struggled to find stable work in Burgundy, where he was unknown. So they decided to move to his hometown of Flowing, in the Ardennes. After selling their house, they bought a modest home there. Fournier found basic labour jobs, while Olivier remained at home. Though they kept a low profile, people in Flowing recognized Fournier and knew that he had spent time in prison, but they assumed, because of the length of the sentence, that it was for something petty, not the monstrous crimes he had truly committed. Then, 3 months later, in April 1988, a connection to Fournier's past reappeared. Jean-Pierre Hellegoire, his former cellmate, the very man who had once protected him in prison, had heard about a buried loot from a bank robbery in Paris. It contained gold coins and bullion, worth millions, and it was hidden in a cemetery near where Fournier lived. But Jean-Pierre couldn't act himself. He was still incarcerated, so he turned to the only person he trusted, his wife, Farida Hamik. But Farida wasn't a criminal. She was gentle, loyal, and innocent, the very reason Jean-Pierre loved her. He told her to reach out to Fournier for help. He believed he could trust the man he once protected. Farida did as instructed. She contacted Fournier, explaining the plan. If he helped her recover the gold, they would pay him the equivalent of £12,000, a small cut of the treasure that was worth millions. Fournier, now desperate and broke, accepted the offer. One night in April, Fournier and Olivier accompanied Farida to the cemetery. The dig was quick and successful. Gold coins and bullion. A fortune was unearthed under moonlight, but greed overpowered loyalty. Fournier couldn't believe how much there was. He knew that he needed to take all the money. This would sort he and Olivier out for life. He had promised Olivier, in their prison letters, that he would make sure that money would be no problem for them. This was his chance. So the three of them loaded the gold into the car, and then they began to drive Farida home. Farida was nervous about the situation, but Olivier put her mind at ease. But it wasn't the case. What happened next is still debated. Both Fournier and Olivier would later blame each other for what followed, but they agreed on one thing. Farida Hamik was stabbed in the trunk of the car and bled to death. Her body was never recovered. The couple, now wealthy beyond their dreams, didn't draw attention to themselves. They waited. They stayed quiet. The money sat untouched. For a while, they continued their impoverished lifestyle. Olivier visited Jean-Pierre in prison. She cried and told him Farida had vanished, along with her car and the gold. She claimed Farida had taken the treasure and disappeared. Olivier was convincing, but as we know now, she was lying. Olivier had been a direct participant in Farida's murder, but she acted well, and Jean-Pierre believed her. To cement their alibi, the couple even scheduled a prison visit under Farida's name, throwing off suspicion even further. They knew Jean-Pierre would be released soon. They needed to maintain control. When he finally got out, Jean-Pierre visited them. He had doubts. Part of him believed Farida wouldn't abandon him. But when he arrived at their home, he was shocked to see them living in poverty. The house was dilapidated. It worked. Jean-Pierre left convinced that they had nothing, and that Farida had really betrayed him. Only once they were sure of this did the spending begin. In 1989, Fournier and Olivier bought a chateau near Flowing, in the commune of Doncheray. The estate, spanning 13 hectares, cost over $1.2 million, and they paid in cash. It would become their sanctuary, and soon a burial ground. The stolen fortune gave Fournier freedom, the kind of freedom he had only dreamed of. For the next 18 years, he would use that wealth to fund his horrific desires. He could travel at will, crossing the country in search of victims without leaving a trace. No job, no oversight, no suspicion. Just as he put it, the hunt, and his wife would be at his side. During this time, Monique Olivier became visibly pregnant, but instead of retreating from their crimes, they adapted. They used it to their advantage. Her condition became a weapon, and another layer of their deception. On August 3rd, 1988, they struck again. At a supermarket in Chalons-en-Champagne, Fournier spotted 20-year-old Fabienne Leroy. She was young, innocent-looking, and just the kind of person who would stop to help. The couple put their plan into action. Olivier, playing the distressed, expectant mother, flagged Fabienne down. She told her the infant was in danger and that she needed to get to the hospital immediately. Could Fabienne help with directions? Fabienne said yes. How could she not? A pregnant woman in trouble. It was instinct to help. But instead of heading towards the hospital, the couple ignored the directions and drove Fabienne into a remote forest near a military camp. This was no accident. Fournier understood the psychology of his victims. He knew that with Olivier by his side, especially while pregnant, he could disarm even the most cautious stranger. The presence of a woman, a mother, made the lie easier to swallow. In the woods, the horror began. Fournier ordered Olivier to check whether Fabienne's hymen was intact, his sick obsession once again driving his actions. For once, Olivier refused, but Fournier continued anyway. He demanded Fabienne ask him to force himself on her. He made her beg him to do it. Once she did, he went through with the horrific act. It was a way for him to become aroused, as he still struggled with impotency. Then, he shot her in the chest with a rifle. No mercy, no hesitation. And just like that, another young woman was gone. After the murder of Fabienne Leroy, Michel Fournier's need for control escalated into something even more depraved. From that point on, he made his victims beg him to force himself on them. Then afterwards, he would make them thank him. It was no longer just violence, it was ritualized humiliation, and the sickness extended beyond the crimes themselves. Fournier and Olivier began reenacting the assaults in their own bedroom. It became part of their intimacy. Olivier would beg him to force himself on her, just like their victims. They both got off on this. Shortly after the murder, Olivier gave birth to their son, Salim. At first, they played the role of doting parents, but this didn't last long. As they resumed their hunt for victims, Salim was treated less like a youth and more like a prop. They would leave him with neighbors who were near strangers, sometimes for days at a time. Did they ever truly love him? How could they, when they were so willing to abandon him to continue killing? Then, in January 1989, Fournier spotted his next victim. He was on a train when he met 22-year-old Jean-Marie Desmay, a religious, soft-spoken woman studying in Charleville. She lived at a convent not far from the couple's chateau. Seeing an opportunity, Fournier pretended to be religious himself. He spoke to her gently, respectfully, and they got on well. As the train ride ended, he invited her to his house and to meet his wife. Jean-Marie agreed. Back at the convent, she told her friends about a kind man she had met and mentioned her plans to visit his home. She didn't know many people in the area, and an evening with a religious couple seemed like a good idea. The first visit went well. Fournier and Olivier played their roles to perfection. They offered her cake, introduced her to their son, chatted, and had a lovely evening. Nothing sinister happened. Fournier and Olivier drove her home that evening. The visit was simply meant to build trust, and it worked. A couple of months later, on March 18th, 1989, Jean-Marie returned. What happened next would later be reenacted in chilling detail by Olivier herself. She told the investigators that she made Jean-Marie a coffee, and the three of them sat talking on the sofa. Then, suddenly, Fournier leaned in and asked, "Are you a virgin?" Shocked, Jean-Marie answered no, but she stood up and went to leave. Fournier snapped. He hit her. After this, in a panic, Jean-Marie ran towards the door, but Fournier tackled her to the ground before she could escape. She screamed, she fought, she clawed to survive, but then Olivier joined in. Together, they overpowered her. They dragged her to the bedroom. Olivier then grabbed some duct tape and covered Jean-Marie's face so that it was impossible for her to see, and then they gagged her. Then, while Olivier held her down, Fournier began beating on her, and eventually he strangled her to death. This murder, more than any other, showed Olivier's full participation, not just as an accomplice, but as an active participant in the violence. Fournier buried Jean-Marie's body on the grounds of the chateau. A few months later, in July 1989, the pair were officially married. Though they had claimed to be married before, this time it was legal. What followed was a period of calm, or so it seemed. Investigators would later suspect that more murders took place during these gaps in their crimes, but the truth of what happened in those quiet months may never be fully known. Their next victim would be their youngest yet. It was December 1989. Michel Fournier, Monique Olivier, and their son Salim, who was just a few months old by this point, were driving through Namur, Belgium, in their white van when Fournier spotted her, 12-year-old Elizabeth Brichet. Elizabeth had just finished school, and like most days after school, she would walk a short distance, just 400 meters to a friend's house. Fournier watched her go inside. He wanted her, and like the predator he was, he parked the van and waited. Despite the cold, despite their infant son crying from hunger in the passenger seat, despite having no food to give him, they stayed for 3 long hours. Fournier believed the sound of the crying youth would make them appear even more desperate, more believable. Years later, both Fournier and Olivier would return to the abduction point and describe what had happened that evening. When it got dark, it was time for Elizabeth to go home, and when she finally emerged from the house, the trap was sprung. Fournier pulled the van up beside her, and Olivier played the concerned mother. She said her son was sick, and that they needed help finding the nearest hospital. They asked Elizabeth to guide them. She was just a youth, but a kind one. She said yes, of course she did. Who could say no? She climbed into the van, but as with the others, they didn't follow her directions. They took her to the chateau. Once they arrived, they tied Elizabeth to the bed and undressed her. When Fournier realized she was menstruating, he ordered Olivier to clean her, and she did without hesitation, without compassion. What followed was a night of horror. Fournier forced himself on Elizabeth repeatedly. She must have been terrified. She was just a youth, utterly powerless, helpless, and alone. When it was over, Elizabeth cried for her mother. She turned to Olivier, the only other adult in the room, begging for help, pleading to be released, asking to go home. Olivier, a mother herself, didn't flinch. She had heard these cries before. They meant nothing to her. She had used her motherhood as bait. She could ignore the agony behind the youth's voice, because for her, her pain was part of the plan. The next morning, as Elizabeth lay still bound to the bed, Fournier strangled her to death. There was no final mercy, no release, only cold, calculated murder. Fournier then buried her body in the garden of the chateau, using an excavator he had recently purchased. But this time, the authorities responded differently. Belgium investigators launched an extensive, years-long search for Elizabeth. Unlike Isabelle Leville, who had been dismissed quickly as a runaway, Elizabeth's case was treated with urgency. Posters, interviews, ground searches. Her face became known throughout the country. And still, for 15 years, there were no answers, no remains, no suspects. She had simply vanished. It wasn't until 2004, when Monique Olivier finally confessed, that the truth of what had happened to Elizabeth came to light. Another method Fournier and Olivier developed was what investigators would later call the au pair technique. Again, they used their son Salim as bait. They would advertise for live-in nannies who were young, vulnerable, and isolated. These women weren't locals, and no one would notice if they suddenly vanished. They were invited into the chateau under the pretense of caring for Salim, but none of them stayed long. They all disappeared. Olivier would later recall one such victim, but she couldn't remember her name, not even that. She described the youth only vaguely, as between 15 and 17 years old. She managed to help the authorities create a composite sketch, but beyond that, nothing. She was just a blur. The youth had been living at the chateau for only a few days. One night, Olivier said she heard Fournier enter the youth's room. Then came sound, screaming, a struggle broke out, and then silence. That was it. She never saw her again. Was she buried somewhere on the property, like the others? Probably. But the fact that Olivier couldn't remember the name of someone who had lived with them suggests there may have been many more victims. Too many to keep track of. Their next victim was caught using the similar manipulative tactics. Her name was Joanna Parrish. She was a British student from the University of Leeds, taking a year out of her studies to teach English in the French town of Auxerre. Young, ambitious, and full of promise, she placed the ad in a local newspaper, offering private language lessons to students. Michel Fournier replied. They arranged to meet in the town square. At some point during their meeting, Fournier led Joanna to his white van. Monique Olivier was already inside, sitting in the front seat, calm and welcoming. Her presence, as always, offered an illusion of safety. Joanna, like the others, had no reason to be suspicious. A woman, a family vehicle, it all looked harmless. But it wasn't. At some point, Joanna was forced into the back of the van. There, Fournier beat her and forced himself on her, and strangled her to death. All the while, Olivier remained seated in the front, unmoved. She was no longer shocked by the violence. It had become routine. Once Joanna was dead, they drove to a nearby riverbank and dumped her body. But this time, they didn't bother hiding it. Her body was discovered soon after, exposed, left in the open. It marked a disturbing shift in Fournier's behavior. Previously, he had buried his victims, or hidden their remains. Now, he was leaving them out in the open, as if he wanted to be seen, as if he was taunting the authorities. The confidence was growing, and the danger was far from over. On November 21st, Fournier and Olivier carried out another murder. That day began with a court appearance in Nantes, where Fournier was facing charges related to burglary. On the return trip, the couple stopped at a shopping centre in Ray, a small town along France's western coastline. It was there they spotted Natasha Danis. Natasha was walking back to the car to fetch her mother's handbag. It was a quick errand, but one she would tragically never return from. Fournier and Olivier approached her, pretending to need directions, a ruse they had used many times before. Trusting and helpful, Natasha agreed to assist them and entered their van. They drove her to a remote stretch of coastline. Details about what unfolded during the ride remain unknown, but it's hard to imagine that she wasn't terrified. Once isolated, Fournier began a brutal attack, stabbing Natasha twice in the chest with a screwdriver, and then he strangled her. But even in death, Fournier's cruelty didn't end. Before leaving, he forced himself on her corpse, adding necrophilia to an already unimaginable list of crimes. The aftermath took another tragic turn and claimed an indirect victim of Fournier's. A neighbour of Natasha's, Jean Garay, became a suspect. His vehicle matched the description to the one used in the crime. Wrongly accused and crushed by suspicion, Jean ended everything in his prison cell before the truth came to light. Tragic. Around this time, law enforcement began to question Michel Fournier's unusual wealth. This was because of the attention he got for being on trial. He was, after all, a man with a background of menial jobs and petty crimes. So how could he possibly afford a chateau worth over €1 million? The suspicion began to grow. Investigators started combing through his financial records. What they found were large, unexplained deposits. Nothing illegal on paper, but suspicious all the same. Something didn't add up. At the same time, Fournier's former prison cellmate, Jean-Pierre, was being questioned in connection to a separate burglary case. During the interview, the investigators, knowing his past ties to Fournier, asked him, "Do you know where your old friend got all his money?" Jean-Pierre looked puzzled. "What money?" he said. "He's broke, dirt poor." That's when the officers told him about the chateau, the land, the bank accounts. Then the penny dropped. Jean-Pierre realized he'd been played. The gold was meant to fund his future. The fortune stolen from the Parisian heist had been taken by Fournier and his wife. Farida had been murdered, and now the man who owed him everything was living like a king. But Jean-Pierre didn't tell the police. He wanted his own kind of justice. Sometime after, he made his way to the chateau with the intention of killing Fournier. But when he arrived, Fournier wasn't home. He was out hunting. Olivier was there, and so was Salim. Jean-Pierre didn't harm them, but the threat was clear. The safety of the chateau had been shattered. Shortly afterwards, the family abandoned the chateau. It was no longer a sanctuary. It was dangerous for them to be there. In 1991, they relocated to Sarcustine in Belgium, a remote wooded area near the border. Quiet and isolated, it was easy to disappear into. There, they claimed the killing stopped. For 9 years, they insisted there were no more murders. But that's hard to believe. How could two people who had spent years preying on the vulnerable, methodically, obsessively, just stop? More likely, they simply got better at hiding the evidence. Perhaps they returned to the au pair method. Perhaps they changed their tactics. Whatever the case, no bodies were found and no one came asking questions. Until May 16th, 2000. That's where their trail of blood began again. 18-year-old Céline Saison vanished while walking home from school in Charleville, Mézeray, a town in northeastern France near the Belgian border. She had just completed an exam and was returning home alone when she was approached by Michel Fournier. By this point, he was frequently crossing into France from his home in Belgium to scout for victims, and on this evening, he was doing just that, hunting for women to abduct. That day, he was accompanied by his wife, Olivier. While the exact method of approach remains unclear, it is believed Olivier's presence was used to make Céline feel safe enough to accept a ride. Once inside the vehicle, Céline was trapped. She was driven across the border into Belgium, where Fournier took her to a secluded rural area. There, he made her beg him to force himself on her, and after he went through with the act, he then strangled her. He was following a pattern that he had repeated with other victims. When it was done, he loaded her body into the van once more and headed deep into the Ardennes. In a remote pocket of forest, he dug a shallow grave and covered her with earth. For 2 months, Céline's disappearance remained a mystery. Then, on July 22nd, 2000, her remains were discovered in the woods. The next murder happened not far away in Sedan and would cause a media storm, as they rightly believed a serial killer was on the loose. On May 5th, 2001, 13-year-old Mananya Thumpong vanished. Mananya was bright, polite, and trusting, but that trust would ultimately be exploited in the worst way possible. Michel Fournier had met Mananya a few weeks earlier when he offered her a lift home. That seemingly harmless gesture was part of a calculated plan. By gaining her trust in advance, Fournier laid the groundwork for her abduction. On the day she disappeared, Mananya had just visited the local library. Outside, she encountered Fournier again. This time, he invited her back to his home to play with his young son, a seemingly innocent offer from a man she had already come to trust. Mananya agreed and climbed into the back of his van, but she never made it to his home. Instead, Fournier drove her across the border into Nolito, Belgium, a quiet, forested area far from the public eye. There, alone and isolated, he strangled her to death. Her murder followed the same brutal pattern Fournier had used on other victims, luring, isolating, and killing. Mananya's disappearance sparked fear and grief throughout the region, but no trace of her was found. Then, nearly 10 months later, her remains were discovered in the woods near Soujany, not far from where she had been killed. By the time the authorities located the site, her body had been almost entirely consumed by wild animals, leaving behind only partial remains. She was identified to begin with by her clothes and school bag. Her parents said during a press conference, after she had been found, 10 months of hell, wondering where she was or who she was with. Was she being held somewhere? Was she being beaten or worse? Officers and the general population knew a serial killer was at large, someone who was abducting young females. Fortunately, the crime spree was coming to an end. The next known crime was in 2003, the abduction of Marie, which I spoke about at the beginning of this video. On June 22nd, 2004, Olivier had confessed that she knew of at least 8 murders that Fournier had committed. She also told them that she had a part to play in some of the murders. Olivier claimed that she was manipulated, that she feared him, that she was powerless, but her stories were inconsistent. Her tears carefully timed. She had helped lure the females in. She had watched them die. She had kept the secrets. When the trial began on March 27th, 2008, Olivier wasn't just entering the courtroom to face justice. She believed she was entering it to tell her truth. She imagined that once people had heard her side of the story, once they understood her fear, the control, the mental prison Fournier had built around her, they would see her as a victim as well. She thought she would be pitied, understood, perhaps even forgiven. Instead, she was hated. The moment she walked into the courtroom, people saw not a woman broken by abuse, but a woman composed, precise, and disturbingly calm. She had tried to soften her image. She changed her appearance, cutting her hair into a modest, no-nonsense style. She wore plain clothes and was conservative and quiet, as if to fade into the background. No makeup, no jewelry, just a motherly face. But for the families sitting in the courtroom, the mothers who had buried their daughters, the fathers who had waited for decades for answers, it wasn't enough. Crowds formed outside the courthouse. In Charleville-Mézeray, people weren't just there to see the killers. They were there to see the woman they despised. To them, Monique's crimes were worse, not just because of what she did, but because of who she was. A woman, a mother, the person a youth should be able to trust. The hatred was palpable. Fournier had no interest in theatre. He wanted a closed courtroom. No photos, no press, no attention. Even at trial, he tried to maintain control. He refused to talk, and instead held up a sign stating that because there are cameras, he would not speak. And yet it was Olivier who stepped forward first, delivering an opening statement in which she cast herself as a victim. She claimed Fournier had threatened to kill her and her son Salim if she ever turned on him. Despite testifying against him, she and Fournier were strangely aligned, both painting her as a woman enslaved by fear. But the public wasn't buying it. Her defense team, led by Richard Delgine, fought to salvage sympathy. As they did, the victim's family all left the court. They did not believe the 2 killers deserved a defense, and they were making their feelings clear. The defense went on to argue that the public hatred of Olivier had become so intense that it nearly absolved Fournier of blame, that all the fury once aimed at the predator had shifted onto the woman beside him, but in doing so, they underestimated the grief and the rage of the victims' families. To them, she wasn't a victim, she was key to the entire operation, the one who opened the van door, the one who smiled while youths were driven to their deaths. To them, she wasn't just complicit, she was the mastermind. The next day, the sentences were handed down. Michel Fournier was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a rare sentence in France, reserved for the worst of the worst. Monique Olivier was also sentenced to life with a minimum term of 28 years before she could be considered for parole. It was important to Olivier that she was not given as harsh a sentence as Fournier. As to her, it meant that she was not the same as him, but it still wasn't over. Following their arrest and initial confession, the couple was transported multiple times by police to remote wooded areas and the streets where the abductions had taken place, in France and Belgium, led in handcuffs to places only they knew. Officers were now trying to recover the bodies of as many victims as they could for the families. In the summer of 2004, Olivier led authorities to the grounds of the chateau. There, beneath the soil of the garden, police unearthed the bodies of Elizabeth Brichet and Jean-Marie Desirme. Both were missing for more than a decade. Their bones were wrapped in rubbish bags and placed in shallow graves. Chillingly, as Isabelle was unearthed, Fournier said to one of the investigators, "Isabelle was the same age as your daughter when I killed her." In July 2006, they took Fournier to Bussy-en-Auth, where he personally pointed out the well in which he had hidden the body of Isabelle Laville, the 17-year-old female murdered in 1987. Police lowered cameras into the darkness and found her remains at the bottom. They had been there for nearly 20 years. In May 2015, a former cellmate of Monique Olivier came forward to the authorities and told them Olivier had said something about the Estelle Mouzin case. The cellmate had seen Estelle's father on the television as he pleaded for any information about his missing daughter. Curious, she asked Olivier if she knew anything, and her response was haunting. "She's his type of youth," she said, referring to Fournier's preferences. Estelle Mouzin was only 9, the youngest of all his known victims. On January 9th, 2003, after leaving school, she vanished without a trace. Even after an extensive search, lasting weeks, there were no leads. But it was believed she had been abducted. For years, she was a face on a missing persons poster, but her family never let her be forgotten. When questioned, Michel Fournier confessed in his usual flat, emotionless tone. By this point, he felt no need in hiding anything anymore. What else could they do to him? By 2021, Fournier was dying. He was suffering from Alzheimer's. He was moved to a hospital in Paris, where he died from a heart problem on May 10th at the age of 79. There were no last words, no apology. Only Monique Olivier remained. She now held all the answers. In 2003, she stood trial once more. She was charged with complicity in the murders of Joanna Parish and Estelle Mouzin. Once again, she tried to distance herself and claimed she had been under Fournier's control and that she was afraid. But the court had heard it all before. On December 19th, 2023, justice came again. Monique Olivier was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 20 years behind bars. She will be eligible for parole in 2032 when she is 84 years of age. Later, Olivier will confess that she was present during the abduction and murder of Estelle. Officers estimate there could be in total 35 victims, but no one really knows. It could be much higher. I know this video has been long, but I really wanted to share this case. Thank you if you made it this far. Until next time, stay sane.
Discovered that it's been in the Johnson family for 100 years.
That awful lady with the umbrella? Ooh, never could stand that.
Yes, we threw it in the basement.
Yeah, and we threw it out.
You did what? Louisa with a parasol is a rare French masterpiece worth over $100,000.
$100,000?
Application of that large stuff could prevent the imminent destruction of this abode.
She means we could save your house, folks. Yeah, Louisa and her paragraph.
emergency. We need a lift. How can I refuse my best customers? Where to? The city dump, and step on it. Hey, thanks for the ride. That was some hot driving.
Uh-oh, that ain't all that's hot. Bobo's right. The painting is in imminent danger of incineration.
If you're coming along, hold on tight, Pinky.
Come on, Pinky! Hurry up! Hurry up!
Can't reach. Nice work, kiddo.
Oh no, the painting's getting away!
Which way? Yeah. Do we throw a left or a right? Oh, Cheddar, you, Annie, and Rocco go left. We'll take the right. Meet you back at the Johnson's house.
Yeah, if it's still there. Only 3 hours to go.
Now, where'd that runaway can get to?
Car wash, Pinky, car wash.
Quick, into the car wash. Yeah, Murphle. I already took a shower, too. This is no laughing matter, little brother. Louise is getting away.
Oh no! It's like finding a noodle in a haystack. I mean a needle in a smokestack. Oh, you know what I mean.
We have to find that painting, Pumpkin. But we have less than 2 hours to do it.
Any of you guys seen a painting of Louisa and her pyramid? A power key? This parasol? I'll take that as a no.
Flowers in a vase? Check. Oban? Check. Blue boy?
That's a green boy.
Green boy? It must be a typo.
Hey, what about the lady with the umbrella?
Search me. I don't know where they get this junk.
We're all loaded. Let's move them out. Wait! Hold that truck!
Stop! Did you find the painting?
It's on its way to the McCurdy and Company department store. Let's get moving, Pinky. You too, Blackbeard. There it is. You guys wait here. Yeah, Murphle. I'm glad to see you too.
Merfolk.
Unhand that painting.
But this painting belongs to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. It got into your factory by mistake.
Sure. And I'm Leonardo da Vinci. Hand it over.
Oh no. There's less than an hour left.
He said, hand it over.
Stop!
Hey, that tickles. Send a security team down to load it. And hurry. Stop, you thieves. And what's your excuse?
I was framed. I think we gave him the slip, guys.
There they are.
Hurry! Time is running out.
shaped arrow.
How about some more pink lemonade, Panky? That's quick.
Pinky, I think you've had enough.
Oh, I think you're right.
I think your dumbass needs to shut your dumbass.
We now return to the pink
Bitch.
Goodbye and good riddance.
Uh-oh.
Dad told me about this fishing spot, Pinky. In fact, he was lucky to get away. Oh boy, I got a strike. Yow!
It's a lamp.
It's just an old piece of worthless junk. Chuck it. Oops, sorry guys. Good thing you're so hard-headed.
Here, you can have your old piece of junk back.
Hey, there's some writing on this thing. Contents, 1 genie, no preservatives added. Rub well for best results.
Hey guys, what's happening? Hey, take it easy. This lamp isn't padded inside, you know. Hey, how did you see that? See what? Some guy with a towel on his head just popped out of that old piece of junk.
You just call him a towelhead?
Going on, shall we?
Where'd you come from, sir?
Genie's my name. Granting wishes is my game.
A wish? You mean you'll grant any wish we want?
You got it, kid. So what's your wish?
Gee, I don't know. Can I think about it a minute?
Oh, sure. But I'm a busy man.
Shut your dumb ass.
People to meet you now. Ooh, that's my phone. Look, think about it, guys, and I'll catch you later.
This is fantastic, Pinky. Let's get back to the clubhouse. Oh, boy. Wait till the gang sees this.
Ugh, disgusting.
But did you see that, Finko? We had that lamp, but we threw it back.
Don't worry about it, Hal. They may have the lamp now, but they won't have it for long.
I've never heard of weenies, beanies, or genies. Me neither. There's no such thing as magic lamps, right, Chada? Let us refer to the ultimate empirical authoritative reference source, the encyclopedia. Ah, here is our Mr. Ingenious Genie.
You're right, Chatta. That's the same genie that's in the lamp. Okay, now for a personal demonstration. We just rubbed the lamp and... Hey, where's the lamp? I think we all know who's got the lamp. It starts with Fink and ends with O.
Finko!
Who else?
I know that genie guy came out of this lamp somehow.
Can't see a thing, Finko.
Here's how to get him. Rub well for best results. Yeah. All right, clam up while I...
Clam up.
Ooh, this place is so dirty, a dog could bury a bone in the rug. So what's it gonna be, kid?
What?
What's your wish? Come on, I'm in a hurry.
Come on, Fink. Hurry
Hey, back off. I wish you guys would get lost.
I wish you guys would kill yourselves.
No, that's your wish. Hey, where'd everybody go? Huh? Where are you guys? Hey, look what you made me do. Now I've got to get the genie to bring those clowns back. Hey, where's the lamp? I should have known. Throw it back. Now I've got to find Howl and his lost losers personally.
I don't know how we got here, but we're definitely lost.
Okay, Pinky, nobody's around, so now's a good time to have a little quiet confab with the genie.
Okay, guys, made up your mind yet? Give me your fondest wish.
It's like Big Gay Al.
I wish all the other kids could see this. please.
Oh, Genie having ass.
Which way, Howl? Yeah, now what? Right, left, up, or down? Cool it, guys. I'm concentrating. We go that way. We're still lost. We ain't ever gonna get back home. Finko, thanks for finding us.
He found them.
What was that for?
That's for making me lose the lamp.
I never thought I'd be so glad to see this dump again.
You can rest after we get that magic lamp back from those panthers.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, nice pad, Sonny. Now what's your wish?
Why don't we wish for a new punching bag that doesn't punch back?
No, Rock.
What? What the fuck are you talking about?
No, Annie, a new hammock. Maybe.
What's going on here? The nerve of that guy. Well, we better make up our minds about this wish. What's it gonna be? Hold it! We're getting nowhere fast. Hey, I read a story once where everything this king guy touched turned to gold. The golden touch. Why not wish for that? We can buy anything with gold.
Great idea! Let's wish for the golden touch.
Well, here we are again. Once you make up your mind, you're just full of indecision. Now, do you have a wish or what?
Yes, sir, Mr. Genie. I wish I had the golden touch.
Oh, the golden touch, huh? Are you sure you want that?
Definitely.
Okay, you asked for it.
Well, might as well try it out.
Hey, we're rich! We can get a new clubhouse.
Okay, guys, just a sec. 0 hour. We'll use our flying witch maneuver. Those panthers won't know what hit them. How exciting!
This lamp's too valuable to leave around here. I'm gonna bring it to Dad for safekeeping. Panky! Panky!
Gosh, Pinky touched you and he turned into gold.
Haha.
Panky, are you okay? We gotta get him back fast. I'll just get the genie to give us another wish. That'll get things back to normal. Don't worry, little fella. We'll get that lamp back, and you'll be as good as gold again. I mean, you won't be gold anymore.
Gotcha!
Taxi! Hey, taxi!
Wow, what a trip!
Hey, this golden touch is getting to be a real problem.
Here, Pinky, better use these.
Hey!
I finally made the golden glove.
They're getting away. Now we'll never get Panky back to normal.
Never say never. Look out, gang!
What is normal?
Losing its load!
The fuck were those sounds? Why is he riding the bike like that?
Come on, gang! We gotta get back to the clubhouse before a burglar steals Panky.
Hey, you kids are giving me some workout. What now?
We want to cancel that last wish. We don't want the golden touch.
Hey, I tried to warn you. Canceling a wish, that's quite irregular, you know. But maybe, on one condition.
Oh, you name it.
I need a vacation, so no rubbing the lamp for a while, okay? For at least 1,000 years or so, okay?
Okay!
Your wish for the golden touch is hereby cancelled!
Hi, everybody!
Well, Panky, having a magic lamp sure isn't what it's cracked up to be. Well, Panky, that's that. sure wish we had a ride.
Yeah.
You know what, Pinky? Maybe you don't really need a genie to make a wish come true.
We now return to the Pink Panther and Sons.
Thanks, Casey Kasem.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now anchored at the unspoiled tropical island paradise of Lava Loa, so you may enjoy a day on its beautiful beaches.
Gee, Dad, this South Sea cruise was a great idea, especially with all our Rainbow Panther friends and their folks along.
Oh, Mother, isn't this island impressive with its overwhelming abundance of luxuriant vegetation?
Yes, dear, I'm in total agreement with your exuberance and enthusiasm for the exquisitely exotic tropical food.
What did they say?
Enjoy yourselves, and don't forget our luau lunch at noon.
Oh, boy, I like luau. Who can wait for lunch? We need a little slack.
Why is he fucking a mumble rapper?
Spoil your appetite, son.
Later, Dad, we're gonna find our own private beach.
It's so funny, all the parents are exactly the same.
That's right. We'll be back by the 12th round. 12 o'clock.
Thanks for the solar-powered sand shovel, Dad.
Yo, dumbass up.
Island remains basically the same as it did 50 million years ago, when dinosaurs ruled unchallenged.
Well, I'm the same as I was 15 minutes ago. Pink. How about some more tanning lotion, Pinky?
Okay.
Sometimes you squeeze me the wrong way, little brother.
Look what I found. Yeah, if you listen close, you can see the ear. Hear the sea. Wow, you not only hear the sea, you feel it too. This is a fortuitous opportunity to probe the atoll's interior for fossil specimens.
No kidding. That's terrific, Chatta. Just make sure you keep an eye on the little guy.
That goes without saying, Pinky. The initial points of inquiry are sandstone formations dating from the Paleolithic era. Isn't that particularly fascinating, Pinky?
Yeah.
Various striations indicate an extensive substrata of... and the verdant jungle slopes gently back to the diatomaceous beach. Hey, Chatta found a funnel, a vessel, a fossil. I did? Where? Here, vessel. On the contrary, Pinky, this is no stone fossil, but a certifiably genuine grade A egg.
Then how about another round of breakfast?
Relax, Pinky. Murphle brought plenty of food.
Should I have Y or Momi? Or Rye or Holy? My solar sand shovel!
My gloves!
My know-it-all reference book!
Hey!
What do you call that?
I call it hungry.
In form and feature, face and limb, this curious creature resembles an extinct prehistoric species of dinosaur.
No way. It's just your everyday basic tropical lizard. A very hungry tropical lizard.
Huh?
He's going back for seconds.
I'll take him out in the first round.
Voice.
Whew, you know, this guy could be a real contender.
Beats me, Murphle. I don't know where he came from either, but it might be cool if he left.
Let him stay, please.
Well, I guess so, Pinky. You sweet-talked me into it.
Yippee!
Oh, this guy's really into affection. watch it, will ya?
Okay. Hey!
Hey, Murph, are you keeping our food safe from that hungry phone dial? A turnstile? A reptile?
Obviously, this specimen possesses an insatiably voracious appetite.
Fantastic sandcastle! A fantastic sandcastle, Annie!
Thanks, Pumpkin. Take a picture.
Right. I'll preserve it for posterity. Oh, prosperity. No, I mean posterity. Oops.
Shut the fuck up.
But I got a good action.
What did she call him?
But I got a good action.
Oh, you ruined my castle, you homewrecker!
But I got a good action shot.
I'm afraid your friend is a bit of a drag, Pinky. We'll just have to relocate. Say goodbye. Let's go.
Bye.
How does this beach look?
Occupied. Yeah, how do we lose this pest?
Wait, cops!
Pinky's giving me an idea. Come on, Panthers. I need your help.
This stratagem permits sufficient time to elude our persistent pursuer.
In other words, give us a head start. Fire! Good time to split, Pinky.
Yeah, last one in is a rotten egg.
Oh, don't mention the word egg. That's where all our problems began.
Look! How odd! I didn't know he could swim. Oh, good. The unfortunate reptile appears to be making a wonderfully rapid recovery.
Yeah, he's back in top shape.
But still on our tail.
You know, I never thought Pinky would let anyone come between us. Finally, they're both asleep. Come on. Now's our chance to sneak off to the big luau lunch.
No.
That's easy for you to say, Murphle. Oh, this is some layaway. Layout.
What'll it be, kiddo? Pineapple? Coconut? Papaya? Uh-oh. Mr. Super Apple.
Uh-oh.
Too late, Murphle. He's eaten everything but the thatched hut. Oh, make it including the thatched hut.
I'm sure you will all enjoy the magnificent luau buff. Hey! Responsible for this? A little lizard ate the luau, eh? Ha! You expect me to believe that?
Certainly, because despite the incriminating situation, that ravenous reptile is the actual culprit.
Yeah, the guy's got a real knockout munch.
He must be around here somewhere, Dad.
Maybe he had to eat and run. I hope you know your parents will have to pay for all this. Now back to the ship.
Yeah, there goes our allowance.
Forget the allowance. Where's Pinky?
You hide here.
Pinky!
They went this way.
In here, Panthers. Pinky!
Hi, Pinky.
Pinky!
That's it, Mama.
Wish I could say pleased to meet you, ma'am, but we were just leaving.
See? This confirms my initial hypothesis. He's a contemporary prehistoric dinosaur. I just wish I could have studied him further.
Where are those kids? Well, what kept you? Another
Captain, you'd never believe this in a million years. Or 50 million for that matter.
I'm actually gonna get going. It's pretty late. And the sun's out. And the sun's already Pink Panther and Sons. But I'm going to post this to social media and I'll stream later. Thank you, Jericho, for stopping by and chatting for a bit. My stream wasn't too weird or off-putting with what I was watching. But anyway, I'm going to get going. Some rest. I'll be back on a little later. I don't know how late or early. I might stream in a couple hours. I might stream 10 more hours later. Who knows? I need to get some rest. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. Take care. Love you. Bye. Take care of yourselves too. It's dangerous out there. Peace out. Love you.